How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the second race of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series. Tonight, we're at the virtual Kansas Speedway for the Richmar Florist 100. My name is Estepp. Those of you watching on Twitch, you're watching on twitch.tv/podium esports. Those of you watching on YouTube, you're already right here on my channel. You guys already recognize my face. So you're wondering probably, what am I doing here? This is an iRacing race. Why is there a real life human being here on your screen right now? Well, I'm here to kind of give you guys a little bit of the lowdown, a little bit of an idea of what you all can expect in tonight's race. Before we get started, green flag is going to be coming out a little just past the top of the hour here, just past 8 p.m. Eastern time. But between now and then, I'm going to talk to Jordan Anderson, who helped put this entire series together. I'm also going to look at a lot of the information, all the formats, all the details, all the notes y'all need to know before we get started tonight. Tonight's race, of course, will be called by the very talented Jacob Seelman, also James Pike. We have a great group over there at Podium Esports who are putting this broadcast together. I'm just a small part of it. I'm also monitoring the chat here as we get started, so this is very exciting. But to start off tonight, I forgot to play my theme song at the beginning, but we'll let that kind of roll in the background right here so y'all know what's going on. But yeah, we'll get started tonight by talking about the race itself. Let's see what we got here. We got, like I said, it's the Richmar Florist. What side? There it is. Wow, just floating right there. Look at this. Isn't this amazing? This is something else, isn't it? Yeah, we got the Richmar Florist 100. Thank you to our great sponsors that make this series possible. But what I want to do first tonight is look at the driver roster, the lineup, if you will, the entry list for this race. A lot of familiar faces you might have seen in last week's event at Texas, those of you who tuned in and watched that one. But you can see right here, a lot of very talented drivers. This is basically iRacing, but for the Truck Series. So you got Austin Way itself, you got Jordan Anderson, Tyler Anchor. I'm not going to read every single one of these names, but a lot of mainstays from the NASCAR Truck Series. You have Brett Moffitt, former Truck Series champion on this entry list. You've also got some other drivers from the Xfinity Series, like Harrison Burton. You've also got drivers from multiple disciplines of racing. Last week, a standout performer was Santino Ferucci from the NTT IndyCar Series. He's back tonight. So it's a very interesting group of drivers. You also see Majeski on that list, a great iRacing professional for sure. One of the favorites. Last week's race at Texas saw a lot of drama for sure. Majeski led early on, but got put in the wall, ended up DNFing, which was a shocker to many of us. Christian Eckes, real-life driver for Kyle Busch Motorsports, ended up driving away and getting the win. But I want to know in the chat, I'm monitoring both live chats as best I can right here. Got screens all around me. I feel like an actual sim racer. I'm just surrounded by screens right now. I want to know who you guys think is going to win this race. A lot of fan favorites in here as well. I already see people in the chat shouting Ron Caps, Fast Pasta, some Anthony Alfredo fans in the chat as well. I'm sure those are going to be some popular picks for tonight's race, but I'm going to keep an eye on that. Very exciting to see all the real-life stars of the NASCAR Truck Series and Xfinity Series. Even got some Cup Series guys. Hermie Sadler's on this list as well. You got some wild cards out there. Really exciting to see a lot of these names on this list racing here tonight. But before we go racing, I think you guys should know what's going on, what this race is going to look like. So we're racing at Kansas Speedway. It's a 100-lap race similar to last weekend's at Texas. The qualifying will be 2 laps, and that will happen shortly before the green flag. Conditions, just like last week at Texas, it's going to be hot and it's going to be slick. The air temperature is 90 degrees roughly, which means the track temperature it's going to be around 140 degrees. That's probably going to only go up as the race moves on. So it's going to be a slick, hard to handle mile-and-a-half racetrack. I'm looking at the chat. I see people screaming Chase Briscoe. I love the all caps comments, guys. Those really do catch my attention. Some Natalie Decker fans. Christian Eckes might make it 2 in a row. Yeah, really interesting to see what you guys all think. But yeah, setups, of course, are fixed. So everyone's running pretty much the same truck tonight. Fast repairs, everyone gets just one reset. And there are 3 possible attempts at the green-white checkered. Some of you guys asked last week how the points work. Points work somewhat like this. First place gets 15 points, second place 12 points, third 11 points, and you can see how it kind of breaks down from there. Of course, if you win the poll for the race, you automatically also get 2 extra bonus points. If you post a link to the stream, to one of the live streams, either twitch.tv/podium esports or right here at Out of the Groove, you get a nice little bonus point each week. So it's free points right there, freebies right there. That's kind of like the wild card space in bingo. So encourage everyone to take advantage of that, those of you who are participating. But this is pretty exciting. So then what makes this series unique is that these drivers are actually racing for something. These drivers, obviously bragging rights, obviously for the spotlight, but there are real cash prizes on the line right here. Here's a brief breakdown of what these drivers are racing for today. the winner of tonight's race will get $500. Second place finisher will get $100. If you win the poll, the Bommarito.com poll award, another $100 cash coming right into your pocket, which is pretty exciting, I'm sure, to all these drivers who are competing. If you're leading the race at the halfway point, you'll get your very own Gen Y hitch. So there you are right there, another one of our sponsors for this series. And another thing that I didn't have time to put on this graphic, but I saw before we went live, tonight's race is sponsored by Richmar Florist. So if you finish in the top 5 tonight, you will get a free bouquet of flowers for Mother's Day from the great people at Richmar Florist. So pretty cool to see sponsors getting involved, having some fun. That's pretty freaking awesome right there. But there's a kind of a breakdown of what drivers are racing for right here tonight. Now, in a few moments, we will be going to Jordan Anderson, who is, I believe, practicing right now. I think all the drivers are out there practicing here, getting some last-minute laps in before the race begins. But in the meantime, I'm keeping an eye on the chat. People are still shouting out their favorite drivers. Spencer, well, people are reversing the letters. We got Benser Soyd. Appreciate that. Anyway, everyone's having fun tonight. Last week's race was super awesome to be a part of. I'm extremely excited for tonight's race at Kansas. Another mile and a half, but it's going to be something else. We look at last week's race at Texas, if that's going to be any indicator for what we have here tonight. I already talked about it a little bit, but last weekend's race was won by Christian Eckes. He held off Harrison Burton, then Chase Briscoe finished 3rd, Josh Bilicki 4th, Austin Wayne Self finished 5th. I mentioned Santino Ferucci. He finished 6th last week. Going to be interesting to see if he can back that up. Open wheel guy. See if he can back that up with another solid finish here tonight. But I want to know in the chat now, everyone's told me who they're rooting for. I want to know who you guys think is going to win tonight's race at Kansas, because it's a different track. It's still a mile and a half, but very different from Texas Motor Speedway, and iRacing does a very good job of capturing that. But yeah, this is pretty outstanding. We already have, at least on YouTube, we have over 250 people watching already, so that's really exciting to see all of you tune in just for the pre-race show, just to see this face sitting here hanging out. But I want to know in the chat, a lot of people see Stewart Friesen, some picks for Stewart Friesen, actually 3 or 4 picks for Stewart Friesen. I see on one chat, looking around here, see Ty Majeski. Ty Majeski, definitely a favorite. Definitely a favorite for sure. So people asking if this is a day race or a night race. It's actually going to be a day race, which is why there are going to be super hot temperatures, of course. Timmy Hill's not in this race. Someone needs to get Timmy Hill on the phone. We'd love to have him in the next one. He's not in this race, but I appreciate the comments. Yeah, a lot of great. Oh my goodness, everyone's just misspelling people's names on purpose. That's pretty hysterical. But that's awesome. All right, we're gonna see if we can get Jordan in here in just a moment. I don't think Jordan's ready yet. Hold on. I think he is. We'll get him in here in just a moment. We'll talk to him a little bit about his expectations for today's race. But briefly, before we go to Jordan Anderson, I want to talk a little bit about the Pickup Throwdown series and how this thing came to be. So I got involved when Jordan Anderson, obviously you guys know who Jordan Anderson is, Truck Series driver, also team owner. He had the great idea. The great folks over at AE Engine helped put it together, helped get the sponsors together, helped rally the drivers, rally the troops, so to speak. That's when I got involved, just to be a part of the broadcast and to help promote this thing, because I think this is really exciting. We all know that the NASCAR Cup Series drivers already have they have the Pro Invitational that's on national TV. The spotlight's on them. It felt like we needed to give the Truck Series drivers their very own series to kind of shine in, for sure. And I think this series has been able to accomplish that. Last week's race at Texas was super duper fun. And the great folks at Podium Esports have helped us bring this to your living rooms or your phones or your laptops, wherever you may be watching tonight's race. We are very, very thankful, and we hope you enjoy it. So I'm not going to keep you guys waiting too long. This pre-race show isn't going to go on forever. We'll get Jordan on in just a minute. Jordan might be almost ready. I'm not sure if Jordan's ready. We'll check on Jordan in just a minute. Jordan's having to recap his practice, make sure he knows what's running. All right. Okay, I think Jordan's ready. So we'll see if we can get Jordan in here in just a second. Anytime he could. Hey Jordan, are you there? Can you hear us? How's it going? So this is the pre-race show right now. We got a bunch of fans excited. Everyone's giving their picks for tonight's race. But I was telling everyone a little bit about how this series came to be, but I want to hear from you. How did the idea for the Pickup Throwdown really get started?
Yeah, so it's been a pretty cool experience learning all about iRacing and e-racing and everything that goes into getting one of these series up and off the ground. And the idea came about between Austin Wayne Self and I a couple weeks ago when We weren't really racing. The pandemic with the coronavirus has got all our teams shut down. It was pretty cool. NASCAR announced that we're going back racing next month with the Truck Series, but we wanted to give all the Truck Series drivers and Xfinity guys the opportunity to showcase their teams, their sponsors, their paint schemes, and give the fans something to get excited about. And the IceBox Challenge, the IceBox Pickup Throwdown Series was formed, and I actually got Austin Wayne Self. He's over here practicing right beside me. Say hey there, buddy. So it's been pretty cool to see this idea that him and I had go from just a dream to an idea. Everybody at NASCAR Pole Position Magazine, all the partners that have jumped on board with IceBox, and you, Eric, being able to stream this on your YouTube channel, and all the guys from Podium Esports. It's been pretty exciting, and I appreciate all the fans that have tuned in. And if last week was any sign of what's to come, I think tonight's race at Kansas Speedway is going to be a big treat for us all.
Definitely a bit of a different racetrack from what we had last week at Texas. What are your expectations for tonight's race? How do you expect things to go?
So what we're seeing in practice right now is a little different line than I figured. A lot of guys are running right up against the wall. We picked up 2-3 tenths just from moving from the bottom to the high side. So it's either going to be a multi-groove race because the tires really fall off after 2 or 3 laps, because the settings that we've got right now is the middle of the day, 90 degrees. The track is super hot, super slick. So tire management is going to be big. But I think we're going to see a couple yellows early on. But I think once guys get settled down and maybe lose that one reset with their damage, they're going to calm down quite a bit. But Kansas is always a fun track, whether in real life or in iRacing. And I think it's going to provide a lot of great multi-groove racing for the fans to watch tonight. And I think it's pretty cool. We've got Ron Capps is new. He's joining us this week. We've got a couple other big names that are jumping in to run with us, so it's going to be pretty exciting. And just sitting here right now looking at practice time, man, I think between first and 30th is less than 2.5 tenths, so you can't ask for a much closer field than that.
That's going to look like a baby Talladega out there, probably, if everyone's running that close together. Is the fixed setups, is that kind of what leads to this type of close racing, you think?
Yeah, the trucks are already such a momentum truck, I should say, to race on here. So a lot of it is just getting that thing to drive well and learn how to keep it wound up with this fixed setup. Everybody's fighting the same thing. So I think the thing in the race tonight is you're going to see a lot of guys get a big run. If they got to check up, there's a potential they could lose 3 or 4 spots if they roll out of the throttle. So going to be a big momentum race tonight. I think drafting is going to come into a little bit of the play. But I think one thing to watch tonight with us running right against the wall is it's real tempting to run the high line where you kind of tickle that wall just a little bit with your right recorder panel, and that might lead to a little damage that'll slow you on later down the road. So it's going to be interesting to see who can take care of their equipment and be there at the end.
Interesting. Not just taking care of tires, but actually taking care of fenders as well. It's going to be definitely a fun show to watch. Well, good luck tonight, Jordan. We'll definitely be checking in with you periodically throughout the race. You're kind of serving as our in-race reporter. So, yeah, just stay on the line, I should say.
I'll do my best. I know I'm not as crazy as Clint Boyer with the Fox racing that they've done, but I'll do my best to make it entertaining for you guys. And I'll try not to have any big crashes like we had last week.
For sure. Well, we appreciate it. We'll check in with you later on tonight. Good luck, Jordan Anderson. And yeah, so that's going to pretty much do it for tonight's pre-race show. Green flag is about 15 minutes away. Drivers are going to be wrapping up practice here before too long, and we'll be able to jump right into the Richmar Florist 100. There you have it. There's the logo one last time. You can watch it on Twitch at Podium Esports, YouTube right here, Out of the Groove. Really excited to be a part of it tonight, and that's really going to do it for the pre-race show. So sit tight, relax, everyone, for just a few minutes, and we'll be turning it over to the very talented broadcast team over at Podium Esports here before too long. I'll still be a part of the broadcast tonight, so don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I'm nice and comfy, and I'm probably not going to use this seat too much. I'll probably be on the edge of it most of tonight if last week's race at Texas Motor Speedway is any indication of what is to come tonight. But a big thank you again to Jordan Anderson for being our in-race reporter tonight, and a big thank you to every single one of you who are tuning in tonight. Hopefully it's a great show. I'm extremely excited, and I hope you guys are too. We'll see you all again, or I'll see you guys again in just a few minutes during the actual broadcast. Have a great night, everybody.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to coverage of the Richmar Florist 100, the second round of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series, live tonight from Kansas Speedway in Kansas City, Kansas. I'm James Pike, up here in the Podium Esports booth, the voice of Podium Esports, alongside Jacob Seelman, Blake McCandless, and Eric Estepp of Out of the Groove. Also up with us, way above Kansas Speedway, Ryan Bowers, always punching buttons in our virtual production trailer. And Jacob, I turn to you first. A bit of a different animal from what we saw at Kansas Speedway last week, or Texas Motor Speedway last week, because I blank on the weeks and slide and slip through all this. But in either case, Texas, you get down to the bottom, you're very, very quick to get towards that apron. Here at Kansas, the fast place to be is the top side and the top side and the top side. These drivers are rarely going to come off the wall, save for maybe the front straightaway, and it's a completely different kind of racing that you get here as a result.
It really is, James. This is so much momentum-based here at Kansas. I mean, the trucks are momentum-based to begin with, but here at Kansas, the line and how you attack this track is all about keeping that thing wound up as much as you can all the way around this racetrack. You mentioned it. Drivers are very rarely going to leave the outside lane because that is where all the speed is. It's going to be something we're going to talk about, going to be something we're going to watch all night long, and it's going to be about who can get closest to that outside safer barrier without hitting it in order to make the speed they need to eventually park it in victory lane tonight.
This place, even though the racing, the grooves might be different from Texas, it still is a momentum-based track. And I think especially with these trucks, Blake McCandless, you carry so much of it down the straightaways, and so much of your speed is determined on corner exit. It's something that I think we're going to notice a lot over the next 5 minutes as these drivers put down their qualifying laps.
Oh, I think that's certainly the case, James. And you can really tell about how wound up these trucks are by just taking a look at our practice times. Not a whole lot of separation between the top and the bottom of the board, quite like we saw last week at Texas. So evening the playing field a little bit. So right now, qualifying going to be key track position. And as both you and Jacob have alluded to, that momentum that you're able to carry, being able to get in the right spot on restarts is going to be critical to trying to either move your way up through the field or keep the track position that you have.
Another point that I think we need to watch, Eric Estepp, as we return to action is where tempers may be and where rivalries might be and where these drivers might have their heads at coming out of last week. We saw patience wear very thin, especially in the second half of the race. There was a lot of blocking and a lot of drivers who quite frankly just weren't here for it and ended up turning some folks because they drove across their noses. Where are these drivers' heads at? Do you feel like we might see a few afters of what we saw at Texas in tonight's race at Kansas?
I would not be too surprised. I mean, last week you said it with the blocking. You said, especially as the race progressed later and later, certain drivers just weren't willing to lift as much as they were early on in the race. But it is going to be a very multi-dimensional race, of course. This track has multiple grooves, of course. The main preferred line is up near the wall. But one thing I thought was really interesting coming from Jordan Anderson during the pre-race show is that most tracks, drivers are mostly worried about saving tires, trying to keep their temps from getting too high so they can make a run later in the run. At this track, though, it's almost as much about saving your fenders. And you said tempers, I think, will definitely continue to heat up as the race progresses, as it gets down to crunch time for sure.
We also have some new faces in the IceBox Pickup Throwdown this week. Jacob Seelman, you've got Bailey Curry in the series for the first time. Sheldon Creed makes his debut in the racing, and some fellow named Ron Capps, who's pretty good with the cars that go in straight lines here, but also has some experience racing on this very Kansas Speedway, the first round of the Replacements iRacing series that you can see every other Tuesday night on the iRacing Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube channels. He took part in this race that included Cup cars at Kansas Speedway, and now Ron Capps is here to try his hand at the truck. Ryan Vargas, also part of the new crop as well. So a few familiar faces join the field tonight.
Certainly familiar names, and I think some names with a lot to prove, some with a little to prove, James, just from a standpoint of we really don't know what to expect from a driver like Capps, who has not necessarily had laps in the truck and knows, but we'll find out about it here very, very shortly as we wind up qualifying.
Qualifying within about 45 seconds of wrapping, where as we show you where on earth we are, or where in the earth I suppose we are this week, and it is Kansas Speedway. We are on the other side of the border, near the Kansas City, Missouri metro area, but technically speaking in the Sunflower State, and not terribly far away from Kauffman Stadium and Arrowhead Stadium, home of the world champion Kansas City Chiefs. I know a Clint Boyer and a Ben Weber. There are a few other Kansans that are involved in the NASCAR industry that will get a kick out of saying that for the first time in 50 years. But this is a tremendous facility. It's one of the newest in NASCAR, built in 2001 and joined the series that season along with Chicagoland Speedway. And in the 15 plus years since, they've built a casino on the property. They've added an infield road course. They've really done a lot, Eric, to spruce up this place.
Yeah, it really is a beautiful facility for sure. One of the nicest ones that I think NASCAR has on the circuit. It's a beautiful racetrack, and I think it's produced a lot of great racing, both in real life and in the virtual world, and I think tonight is going to be no exception.
It is time to take you to the starting grid, brought to you by so many great partners: Dragonfire Tools, IceBox, Helmet Coolers, Gen Y Hitch, and Bomberino Auto Group. Just a few that make this series happen as we take you through the top 10. Brett Moffitt had the fastest time out of anyone. Christian Eckes will roll off from P2. It was a 31.519 to a 31.542, so tight within 3/100ths of a second, separating last week's winner from the pole. Harrison Burton rolls off from third. Fourth will be Todd Gilliland. Bailey Curry begins his IceBox Pickup Throwdown campaign from the fifth spot. Majeski rolls off from sixth. Seventh will be Jordan Anderson. Stephen Parsons eighth. Chase Briscoe starting in the ninth spot, and Derek Kraus. Jacob Seelman starting 10th.
11th tonight is Ryan Truex. He'll start alongside Tommy Joe Martins, who rolls off 12th. Sheldon Creed in his IceBox Pickup Throwdown debut, rolling from 13th ahead of Josh Bilicki. Anthony Alfredo starts from the 15th position, repping for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Brennan Poole out of the NASCAR Cup Series is 16th. Tyler Ankrum starts 17th. Austin Terrio is 18th. Tyler Hill and Jason White complete the top 20.
21st starting spot goes to Ryan Vargas. 22nd, Austin Wayne Self. 23rd, Santino Ferucci. 24th, Spencer Boyd. 25th, he was a fan favorite out there last week, Hermes Sadler rolling off from the 25th starting spot with Natalie Decker to his outside in 26th. Howie DiSavino in 27th. Stuart Friesen 28th. Ron Capps looking to make a couple of oval laps with us tonight in 29th. And Kaz Grella rounds out your top 30. 31st to Matt Mills. 32nd, Angelo Ruck, and then Josh Rayoum did not complete a lap. He will roll off from the 33rd starting spot.
And the last truck on the grid as we take a look at the track facts this evening. We've already told you this is Kansas Speedway, located in Kansas City, Kansas. It's a 1.5 mile, 2.4 kilometer circuit that opened in 2001. 17 to 20 degrees of banking in the corners, 9 to 11 degrees of banking on the front stretch. In both cases, that banking is progressive. You gain banking as you go further up the track. That's part of the reason why these cars like to run on the outside, because you've got that 20 degrees of banking to work with up top, as opposed to the 17 degrees that you have on the bottom. 5 degrees on the back straightaway. That is flat and dead on and straight. In sim, it is the default iRacing day, May 15th, 2020. It is currently about 1:15 local time. If you look at the temperatures, you'll see that it is warm and hot. 91 degrees Fahrenheit air temp, 133 degrees Fahrenheit track temp, and winds to the west, 12 miles an hour, humidity of 29%. So a bit of a drier day than you would expect for Kansas, but 150 miles, 240 kilometers, 100 laps of racing to come your way, and 3 green-white checkers if we need them. So glad you're joining us on Out of the Groove and the Podium Esports Twitch channel for round 2 of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series, which is underway from Kansas as they take off, and Brett Moffitt will lead the field into turn 1 for the first time, and they fan out 2 and 3 wide behind them, already antsy for positions. Jacob Seelman.
Try almost 4 wide down into turn number 1. They were thinking about it, and everybody settles it back for a moment. The initial challenge is for second, but we're not even going to get that far between Harrison Burton and Christian Eckes because they're wrecking in the back. Caution flag waves.
First opportunity to check out the Dragonfire Tools replay and see what happened. I saw Sheldon Creed go around first. Looks like he got a little bit of help in the middle of the corner, caught Tyler Ankrum and one of the niche trucks. Looks like Anthony Alfredo and Creed get together going into one to start all this off. So they bounce off each other and bounce again. Creed goes sideways and gets bumped up the track, and neither one of Ankrum or Jason White had anywhere to go on that deal. Those 3 get caught up in it. I believe everyone else able to come down from the inside unscathed, save for one truck that managed to just pile drive Jason White at the end of it. It was the 29 machine of Kaz Grella, not the way he wanted to start his Icebox Pickup Throwdown campaign. Already going to be in need of the fast repair, but a few trucks, a few big names early in this one swept up. Blake McCandless.
And indeed, that was the case, especially there as Anthony Alfredo got all the way to the bottom side of the racetrack. He got an incredible restart, which we all know with track position and how wound up these trucks are around this 1.5-mile speedway here in Kansas is going to be very important. So Alfredo got the launch as they went into turn number 1. And unfortunately, Sheldon Creed either not happy or not aware. Alfredo was there on the bottom, and Creed just gave him no room to make that corner. So unfortunately, Alfredo sends Creed around and collects a couple of other trucks. But I think early on, already on lap 1, that shows you how difficult passing is and why these restarts are going to be so important.
And I turn to you, Eric Estepp, because it gives us a chance to examine one of the more interesting wrinkles in this Icebox Pickup Throwdown, that the ability to have a fast repair and use it. If you get your car torn to pieces a million times over in an incident, you can use one fast repair to return your car to like new condition, or truck, I suppose, in this case, and get back to racing and potentially work your way up through the field. Now, if we run green flag laps for a lot of this race, you figure you want to go ahead and use it. But if we end up having a race like we did at Texas, where there were a lot of incidents, a lot of yellow flags to deal with, then is there a chance that maybe you save the fast repair even though you have damage, unless you absolutely have to use it like Kaz Grella did? He had engine damage all over the place with his number 29 truck. But if you got the ability to hang on, do you try and wait a little bit and maybe hang on that fast repair, or is it just one of those cases where as soon as you wreck, you get your truck fixed up as soon as you can?
I think it is an interesting kind of added strategy element here for sure. Some drivers said beforehand that they expected in this race a few yellows perhaps early on, a little bit of a sloppier start to this race that might clean up towards the end. So yeah, that definitely is a potential strategy play, but giving these drivers one opportunity to repair their cars should continue to keep the action up and intense. That first restart, we saw 4 wide. I don't think we saw anything close to that at Texas a week ago. So these drivers definitely up on the wheel here early on, pushing the limits.
Everybody really aggressive on these restarts. It's also one of the best opportunities that you can get to gain positions, Blake McCandless, and one of those cases where I would expect more aggression than usual just because it's really hard to pass here once everybody gets going on the top side.
And we'll have to see it once again if everybody learned their lesson. I know personally when I'm out here driving on the sim, that's just one of the things that everybody has to deal with is these restarts and how important it is to get a good jump. We know Anthony Alfredo, very experienced on the sim. He used that experience to get that good of a restart, and perhaps that's just one opportunity there where Sheldon Creed perhaps just needs to recognize that, know that somebody's under him, and, just live to fight another turn.
Moffitt and Eckes will, as they did, bring us back to green flag racing as we return to action on lap 5 of 100. And the top 4 did not swap spots at all on that initial start. So as we get back to green flag racing, Moffitt will jump ahead of Eckes. Harrison Burton gets in line in third. First battle for position, side by side. Todd Gilliland in the 38, Todd Majeski in the 45.
Side by side down to 1 and 2, and we can't get through 1 and 2, James, without stacking them up for the second time back outside the top 10. They're crashing in turn 1. Yellow flag is back out, and it's going to squelch what I think would have been a really good battle as we see the 0-0 of Angela Ruck sideways and down on the apron, and chaos and mass confusion abounding.
The Dragonfire Tools instant replay comes out again, and indeed it was Ruck and Tyler Ankrum that got together entering turn 1. I think Ruck thought that she might have been cleared and realized that Ankrum was there and drove up into the side of the 26. So Ruck picks up damage, but I think for Ankrum in particular, that's the scarier piece. And as I look at some of the other names back here, looks like that Sheldon Creed may have gotten a piece of it. Anthony Alfredo, I think, got some damage as well. And Blake McCandless, these are drivers who already had to use their fast repair on that initial incident, so you may be stuck with some damage for the rest of the race if you're any one of those drivers back in the pack.
Well, certainly it was Tyler Ankrum who got the worst end of that. He already used his fast repair. His engine expired on that lap 1 incident, and unfortunately right there, he's on the outside of Angela Ruck. Ruck comes up just a little bit. They get hooked together, and that sends his Chevrolet Silverado into the wall for the second time in 2 corners. So a really unfortunate night for Tyler Ankrum. He had nowhere to go. He was just an innocent bystander of both these accidents, and unfortunately, quick repair is already used up on that number 34 machine. So unfortunately for Tyler Ankrum, he's going to have to live with this damage for the rest of the race. So 6 laps in, and you can't really say anything other than just horrible luck right now for Tyler Ankrum.
Just really, really tough stuff there for Ankrum. There's not really much I think he could have done in either incident, and already I think you can safely say his opportunity for a victory, unless somehow we end up junking the entirety of the rest of the field, is probably gone out the wayside, and he'll have to regroup for Michigan next week. While we have a moment under the yellow flag, we'll remind you that the IceBox Pickup Throwdown is brought to you in part tonight by the IceBox Helmet Cooler. The IceBox Helmet Cooler represents an innovative air cooling solution for personal and confined environments where space, weight, and power consumption are critical considerations. Visit iceboxracing.com to learn more about how the IceBox Helmet Cooler and find out how it can be used to be applied to the racing, aviation, and aerospace industries. Christian Eckes, your leader. Restart likely coming on lap 9 or 10. Eric Estepp, have we been able to catch any sort of trends and learn anything at all in this race up to this point, or do we need to see a few more green flag laps to start pulling out trends in this race?
The only thing I've seen so far is it's not great to be worse than about 20th in line right now. That really seems to be kind of the danger zone. The leaders have been able to race a little bit on that last restart. In fact, it looked like Christian Eckes was able to actually get the lead away from Brett Moffitt before the yellow flag came out. But yeah, right now track position is key, not necessarily because it's hard to pass. We haven't seen enough racing to know if that's true or not, but because if you get back further than about 15th or 20th, it's a little chaotic right now at the start of this thing.
Almost a bit like a restrictor plate effect, Jacob Seelman, where you become beholden to whatever happens in front of you, and there's not really much you can do to avoid it, especially in turn 1. That tends to be arguably the biggest funnel point here at Kansas Speedway. You've got room to escape if you need it here, more so than what you'd have at some of the other tracks in the service, but just not an easy place to avoid something if it all starts on quarter entry there.
It does, and the word funnel is actually a really apropos description, James, because it does. It gets very narrow when you're trying to get down into turn number 1, and there's a very slim strip of pavement, if you will, that makes it all work once you get into the banking and get into the center of the corner. So it's basically a bunch of rows of 2 trying to funnel down a lot closer to single file. 3 and 4 is going to be your best opportunity to make a pass. If you don't get that pass completed by the front straightaway where you can get in front of somebody before you get to the entrance of turn 1, it's going to be very, very tricky until we get more green flag laps on this racetrack and in this race to be able to keep it too wide through 1 and 2 and be able to make those passes.
I think the other interesting thing here, Blake McCandless, as we get set to go green next time by, is that I think the front straightaway races entirely differently than the rest of the tracks, just because you do have room to work and spread out there. Everywhere else, you're pretty much bunched up. And even on the back straightaway, you don't really see too many drivers fan out trying to gain position.
Well, exactly, and because of that apron that you're able to use on the front straightaway, that's a great passing opportunity. If you're able to get that run off the high side on the exit of turn number 4, that apron becomes a place where you can make a lot of moves, and we've already seen a lot of moves made there, even if we've only made it about 15 seconds under green here in our first couple go-arounds at it. We'll see, maybe third time's the charm. We'll see that apron used pretty much all night, whether it's on these restarts or if we can get a little green flag racing in as well.
Eckes, your leader for this restart, ahead of Brett Moffitt in the 23 truck. Harrison, Burton, and Majeski there, with Todd Gilliland having a nice run for all the folks at PGR Crosley in front row in the top 5 as we go back to green flag racing. And Eckes got a good restart. Gilliland actually got a great restart. He's right on the rear bumper of Harrison Burton. Here goes Majeski to the outside, and the first aggressive block of the evening goes to Brett Moffitt. He went right up there to track the 45 and hold him off, keep him at bay.
The first block went to Brett Moffitt. The second one went to Harrison Burton, who threw it way up to the outside to keep Moffitt behind him, as Moffitt was trying to keep Gilliland and Majeski behind him. It gets crazy as Christian Eckes jumps out to a 5-6 truck length advantage. We go on board as Todd Gilliland working the bottom, trying to make some tracks forward. He's looking at Moffitt for the 3rd spot across the line back to 1.
I think he just managed to get ahead, and there goes Majeski to the inside to try and take the position. Meanwhile, Harrison Burton is visibly gaining on Christian Eckes. Now that he's up in P2, you can see it with every turn, with every corner, with every straightaway. That Hunt Brothers Pizza Machine is clicking along, and Kevin will be curious to see what lap times look like at the line, and we'll start to figure out who's got the fastest truck in town tonight in Kansas. And as they hit the stripe, it was about 100 that Burton beat Eckes by at the line. So plenty of speed in that front 3. The battle is on, though, for 4th. Brett Moffitt and Stephen Parsons fighting each other coming out of the backstretch.
And Moffitt, he's going to make contact with the 83, and Parsons will hook him into the right rear. A couple of trucks go around here on the back straightaway. It's Majeski, another truck involved, launched into the right door of him. That's Brett Moffitt and Majeski, who got together on the exit of the corner, as again Parsons sends him around, and caution flag out here on the back straightaway. Of all places, the back straightaway here at Kansas.
What really started coming out of turn 2 as we bring you another Dragonfire Tools instant replay. This was Moffitt, who was trying to slide up. He was tight on corner exit because he had run the bottom in the corner in 1 and 2 that lap. And Parsons was just right there, and Moffitt clipped him. No question about it. And then Parsons bounces off the wall, then comes back down and catches Moffitt, who tried to clear the 83 truck. And then Moffitt gets hooked into the fence, and Majeski has absolutely nowhere to go and nothing that he could have done, I think, on that one. Similar story to Kaz Gralla and Tyler Ankerman Company. And then those two just sort of pinned themselves up by the fence and eventually separated once they got to turn 3, but they dragged each other all the way down the back straightaway. And Eric Eastham, if you're Majeski, I have to believe you're wondering, especially given how last week played out, can I get some sort of break somewhere? I've got all this speed, and I just keep getting stuck in other people's messes more often than not.
Yeah, that was just wrong place, wrong time, and it went completely against the trend I thought we were starting to see, where you didn't want to be in the back of the pack there. Instance can happen, can strike anywhere around this Kansas Speedway. Surprising that it happened on coming out of turn 2, but obviously did not go well. Rough 2 weeks to start for Majeski.
We're now joined in the booth by Jordan Anderson's Racing. Jordan Anderson, who just narrowly got around that. Jordan, what have you seen in the first few laps, and how'd you manage to dodge that wreck?
Man, that was a close one. I figured we would get a few more green flag laps in here before this thing got rolling, but I don't know, man. It's pretty hairy out there. The top line is definitely the place to be, but I saw, I think Todd there got a little loose, and once you get that rear end starting to come around on you on corner exits, you just got to hold on, and it's up to the guys you're racing around to give you that room. And looks like this ran out of racetrack there, so I was pretty fortunate. I thought I was going to be in there for a second, so I'll take it. Lap 15 coming up here, so hopefully the rest of the race goes clean. Got the KCO Bommarito Chevrolet Silverado running good, so I love Kansas, man. It's a fun racetrack, so we'll see. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully the next 85 laps are better than the first 15.
We'll see how it pans out. But Jordan, thanks for the time, and best of luck to you here in these next 85 laps.
Thanks, guys.
Jordan Anderson of Jordan Anderson Racing, the Columbia, South Carolina native and driver in the NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series, our in-race reporter this evening. And while we have a moment under the yellow flag, we'll remind you that tonight's broadcast of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown is brought to you by Dragonfire Tools. Dragonfire Tools makes high-quality industrial workbenches with integrated tool stores to save your shop time, space, and money. Check out DragonfireTools.com to find out more and support a veteran-owned business. Still Eckes and Burton 1-2, which almost sounds like a broken record replay of last week at Texas, Jacob Seelman. But you've got some trucks here that I think are going to make things interesting, and trucks that have speed that might not necessarily have had the chance to show it. We know Derek Kraus was fast in parts, and I think got caught up in the racing last week in Texas. Todd Gilliland had some speed early on in the race. Jordan Anderson has gotten quicker and quicker, I think, as this series has progressed. He looks mighty fast already tonight. A few names that might be able to mix it up there with two drivers in Eckes and Burton that you know are going to be factors week in, week out.
Two words as far as a driver who's going to be up there soon that has not shown his face yet, only because he had the longest way to come. Stewart, Friesen. Currently 14th right now in the 52 truck, the Toyota Tundra for Friesen racing. And more importantly, James, he's come halfway through the field in 15 laps. That's really where this comes down. And if I look at Friesen, doubles up. If there's anybody that's going to take fight to Eckes and Burton, I think it's him.
Potentially, and Friesen had speed as well. We saw the way he charged to the field in Kansas last week. Same sort of thing that we're starting to see here, or rather in Texas last week. Same sort of thing that we're starting to see here in Kansas. He was one of the ones who got caught up in some of those late race incidents, and ultimately, I don't think got the finish that his run deserves. But Friesen's shown an act for figuring out how to get around these ovals. I think both virtually here in iRacing, Blake McCandless, and the Truck Series, we've seen what he's been able to do with that 52 truck since he entered the series. Don't sleep on the Canadian, no question about it.
Well, and you're exactly right, James. He did the same thing last week. Wasn't necessarily all that strong in qualifying, but if there's one person out here who's able to learn this racetrack as he goes and get up to speed over the course of a race, don't think you'll find anybody better than the driver of that 52 Toyota. This pace truck will pull off once again. It's Eckes and Burton, our top two from last week in the finishing order. They'll get us restarted once again, and we'll try to make some laps here at Kansas.
Yeah, Friesen starting towards the back and then running his way up through the field, picking off people and driving his way to the front. Sounds like some Wisconsin natives that I think Eric Estepp might know pretty well. But as it stands, it is Eckes and then a big block there from Todd Gilliland, who managed to jump ahead of Harrison Burton on that restart. It's the second time in a row that the 38 truck has gotten a good jump off the line. So now it's going to be on Gilliland to try and run down Christian Eckes for P1, Jacob.
Side by side further back in the pack, though, we were just seeing Stewart Friesen go to work as he's jumped up to 12th. Now you look off the back of Todd Gilliland's machine at the Harrison Burton machine. Todd has moved up to the number 2 spot with a bang-up restart in the Front Row Motorsports number 38. He's gotten on the move, made some things happen in the Frontline Enterprises entry, and further back, Ryan Vargas tried to play defense as here comes the guy I was talking about, Stewart Friesen, up the outside, just like he's done in his Dirt Modified, the big block so many times. He'll jump to the outside of Tommy Joe Martins. He had a look on Ryan Vargas, but this is for a spot in the top 10 here. Friesen right there around 11th place. Give him 10th 10th at the line.
Don't sleep on Friesen and Josh Bilicki, too, for that matter, because they've got that preferred outside lane. You've got Vargas stuck there on the inside, and Tommy Joe Martin's there, too. Santino Ferucci charging hard in that 18 truck, beginning to make his move on the outside. And the 23 and the 44, quite simply, Eric Estepp, are just not where you want to be here at Kansas. You need that outside line for speed because the momentum you get on corner exit is so great compared to what's on the inside as Martins goes way high to block Ferucci.
Yeah, you almost had a disaster right there.
Almost had a disaster, and then we had another yellow flag as Ron Capps goes around on the front straightaway, and the caution is out one more time. They were bouncing off each other. We'll take a moment to pull up our Dragonfire Tools instant replay and show you what happened. And it was Capps making contact with the 57 of Austin Terrio. Those two get together. Terrio gets run into by Matthew Mills, and the three of them involved in this incident as Sheldon Creed, I think, gets some damage to the left front side of his truck too. And Creed's been just barely, I think, missing a lot of this, just sort of hanging on and trying to avoid all the madness in front of him as best he can, Blake McCandless.
Well, he has. He got a little bit of damage. Aside from that first wreck, he also got it a little bit in that second wreck that involved Angelo Ruck as he made a little bit of contact once again with Anthony Alfredo on that second caution flag of the evening. So right now, Creed is trying to slowly work his way up as it really think about a large portion. The guys in the back half of this field are really just trying to keep their nose clean and just stay on the racetrack because they know they see in front of them all the madness that's going on right now. So with, we're not even a fifth of the way, just call it a fifth of the way through the race right now. Don't want to use another fast repair if you can. So a lot of these guys that have damage, guys like Hermie Sadler that are running back here with a little bit of rear end damage, they're thinking better of it. They're not using their quick repair too soon.
As all the leaders are in for service, Eckes, Gilliland, Kraus in, Burton in as well, with Chase Briscoe in the 98. He's just been sitting at the edge at the top 10, Jacob Seelman, but so strong in Texas. We saw so much out of him for a good chunk of this race, and no surprise to see him up in the top 10 once again. I think between the show he put on last week in Texas and then his victory in the NBC Short Track Challenge a few weeks ago, Briscoe's proven that he can get it done in iRacing just as well as he can in real life.
He can, as most everybody takes 4 tires and fuel here, and I don't think Christian Eckes got to the line as the first truck off pit road. We'll have to wait and see how the sim calls it, but I'm pretty sure he got edged out coming off pit road and will not be the control truck for this restart, which is going to be a big change because it was that second caution where he initially took control of this race, but now it looks like it's Bailey Curry who ends up, I believe, winning the race off pit road.
You would think here's everybody is going to sort stuff out, and I think maybe more interestingly, we end up with differing strategies here. Looks like you've got a few more that are going to come down pit road. That's Brett Moffitt, who's going to come to pit lane, but I think this is a strategy play just as I look at this. Bailey Curry, Jordan Anderson, Stewart Friesen, Josh Bilicki, Austin Wayne Self, Tyler Hill look like the 6 that have stayed out along with Sheldon Creed in that number 2. So there might be something to just trying to get out of the mess, Eric Estepp. I think Creed wants track position more than anything else, even if it means giving up fresh tires for it.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting because obviously these drivers up front will have to pit at some point for fuel, most likely, before this race is over. But playing it safe early on, all these guys up at the front still have their fast repair, so they're not wanting to take any risks early on. Track position, staying out of the mess seems to be top of their mind at the moment.
Also, a few more here who have stayed out, who came down earlier in this race. Those first 6 have not come down pit road yet, period, in this race. And then you've got a group behind them that I think is just sort of bouncing around on strategies and trying to take advantage of the fact that they got the chance to come down already by virtue of the fact that they were involved in some of the incidents earlier on in this race. Anthony Alfredo, Stephen Parsons, Ty Majeski, Jason White, Angelo Ruck, and then Brennan Poole. Finally, you get to a driver who just came down pit road. He's 13th on the board with 2 tires on his truck. So starting a little bit deeper in that field, Blake McCandless. And we'll have a fun mix of old tires, new tires here on this next restart.
Well, and that's kind of what we saw last week at Texas, James, was this kind of push and pull between guys who have kept their track position and stayed out on the racetrack versus people that, you know, as these cautions keep going on, they'll make some repairs here and there. They'll take and go down pit road and get 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles on their trucks. And it's just a timing game. You're going to have to time out when's the right time to come down pit road. Obviously, guys like Harrison Burton that pitted from the lead right there, that are starting all the way back in 18th. If we go green from here to the end, yes, maybe that works out for them over guys that are staying out on 24, 25 lap old tires. So it just really all becomes a guessing game. Is this going to be where we're going to get that green flag run, or did I just put myself in horrible track position with a bunch of damaged race trucks and may get caught up in an accident? That's just the thing, James. It's just a guessing game at this point.
There's also definitely the chance that you may have just outright jinxed everything, and we go with option C, the commentator's curse, in this Richmar Florist 100, where the top 5 finishers are going to get a free arrangement for their mothers on Mother's Day, courtesy of Richmar Florist. So fun little prize to be racing for this evening too. But as we get back to green flag racing, Bailey Curry and Jordan Anderson going to lead us to green. First 6 have not pit. Next 6 are on about 10 lap old tires, and Curry got a good jump on everybody on that restart. But look at the 52 machine. Jacob Seelman, you talked about him already. Here comes Stewart Friesen to the front.
Well, Friesen, one of a dozen trucks last time that stayed out, but there's trucks crashing hard behind him. One truck went around entering turn number 1, and it's a parking lot now. Alfredo, Tyler Ankrum, several others involved here. Harrison Burton was back in the middle of that mess. Absolute pandemonium before we could even all the way get into turn 1. We'll get a look at the Dragonfire Tools instant replay here, but they all scattered. They were all trying to fight for position, and it started with the 21 of Anthony Alfredo getting turned, and then Chase Briscoe was in the mix. Tyler Ankrum again gets a piece of it as everybody just piled in when Alfredo came back across the racetrack. There was nothing anybody could do there, and I guess Harrison Burton kind of snaking his way through there down on the bottom of the racetrack.
Trying to keep track of all the names that were involved in this. It was that contact between Majeski and Alfredo that started it. Then Alfredo got swept up in this chase. Briscoe had nowhere to go. Harrison Burton gets set up into the fence on this one. A few more trucks get involved as Alfredo comes back down the track and they make contact. The Spencer Boyd machine was swept up in this. Howie DiSavino was caught up in this incident. Matt Mills was involved in this. Natalie Decker got damaged. As we scroll back through everything to see who else was around, Brennan Poole caught damage. The 29 of Kaz Gralla gets damage in this. The 23 of Brett Moffitt is involved in all this. Eric Estepp, it almost reads like a big one list of cars involved at Talladega or Daytona.
Might be easier to name all the drivers that weren't involved in that pileup. I just saw in the replay, Hermie Sadler did a great job of stopping and kind of snaking his way through the wreckage there. That was impressive to see. So good to see him. Might make up some track position right there. But yeah, now a lot of drivers likely going to be faced with that decision we've been talking about. Fast repair now or save it for later and limp around with some damage. Going to be interesting to see what these drivers choose.
Incidentally, it looks like Alfredo's finally given up the ghost and decided to use his after all that mess. But I wonder. We know Hermie's got a lot of experience. Blake McCandless, do you feel like there might be a little bit of tortoise and hare going on here where you may see Sadler play the tortoise role here and just wait for his moment? That's what he did last week at Kansas. And usually it doesn't necessarily work in these Truck Series races that tend to be a little bit shorter, but he came away with a pretty solid finish out of it. So wouldn't be surprised to see Hermie ride around the back and then make his charge in the second half of this race.
Well, you're exactly right. It worked out for him last week, and unfortunately for him, it seems like he's just going to keep playing this game of being patient and letting these guys wreck each other up if they want to. Right now, Hermie, a little bit of rear damage on his 02 Silverado, but the good news is he still has that fast repair left. So not only being conservative, kind of coming down pit road, giving up that track position, letting these guys go at it, he still has that fast repair in his back pocket, which, as we see the entire field practically get caught up in that accident, he has that advantage over everybody else as well. So luckily for all those Hermie fans out there, he won't be exiting at least too soon.
Not a bad point on that front either as we continue to work our way under the yellow flag in tonight's Richmar Florist 100. We remind you that tonight's broadcast of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown is brought to you by Gen Y Hitch. Gen Y Hitch realizes the importance of protecting investments, and that's why they strive to create innovative hitches for you and your team. Visit their website at www.genyhitch.com to find out more about Gen Y Hitch and support their American-made products. We still have those 6 trucks who have stayed out for the entirety of this race at the front, but I want to turn our attention, Jacob Seelman, again to Stewart Friesen in the 52 because you said it, and oh, by the way, for those keeping score at home, Friesen has the Hard Charger Award as it stands. 26 spots he's come up in this field. He rolled off the grid 28th. He now runs second. And now in first as they cross. Well, first off the timing and scoring from iRacing, but will be second on the restart.
Second on track to for the restart here, which is going to be interesting because the outside lane, we know it's where the momentum is, so you got to believe that Stewart Friesen is going to be on the charge here when we get set to get back to it. Bailey Curry in that 83 currently leading the party around this racetrack, but, you know, strategy may have gotten him up there, but he's also got a very fast truck, does Stewart Friesen, James. So I'm not surprised at all, and I think you know, he's going to be playing the game of get out front while you can, and then if they keep having cautions like this, everybody's going to have to come back down pit road at some point, you would think, and Friesen should be able to then bring everybody else with him and have a shot at this.
The hope would be that you don't lose the track position on a long green flag run.
Right.
These trucks at the front are kind of sitting ducks in that sense if we go 15, 20 laps. But so long as we keep getting these about 3-4 lap stints, they might be in good shape to come down pit road and preserve the track position by stopping and getting tires. As Curry will jump away. And we go back green flag racing in the Richmar Florist 100 on lap 30. Friesen will drop to the bottom immediately, pull in front of Jordan Anderson, who races side by side with Austin Wayne Self in that 22 truck. For a second, as they're 3 wide behind them to try and figure out who wants the back end of the top 5.
3 wide through 1 and 2 is going to be a dicey affair at best. They get it sorted out and maybe a tap to the wall for the 45 of Ty Majeski as he works his way back through. Closer to the front, however, Austin Wayne Self on the back of Jordan Anderson. They're trying to catch second running Stewart Friesen off turn 4. They're side by side for 5th. Behind, it's Josh Bilicki, Tyler Hill, and Ty Majeski going at it as Sheldon Creed ducks up to the inside as well.
And a nice march here from Sheldon Creed, who's trying to make his way forward. Now on the bottom side, he may have that opening to get up high. He's going to be able to complete it. He gets up for the 6th spot.
As Creed will work his way up to the top side. Not bad for a driver who had to use his fast repair in the opening few laps of this race, but all of a sudden, Creed's up into the 6th spot, and I think that gamble on the track position may end up playing right in his favor as we still wait for the drivers who took tires to come up through the field and make something happen. The first of that bunch is Santino Ferucci, who currently sits in the 12th position.
Battle for the runner-up spot is on. Jordan Anderson took a look to the inside of Stewart Friesen last time by. They race down the back straightaway. Now it's Sheldon Creed behind them that kicks out to the inside of Josh Bilicki into turn number 3. Anderson again taking a look to the middle groove of the racetrack. Friesen says no dice. He'll rim ride the outside off turn 4. Carry the momentum. It's 5 truck lengths up to the leader, Bailey Curry.
I don't think Jordan Anderson could totally figure out which way Austin Wayne Self was going to try and go, but he keeps that number 22 at bay, at least for the moment. Meanwhile, there goes Josh Bilicki trying to get to the inside of Sheldon Creed, but he couldn't quite do it, so he'll slide back up, and he'll lose all that momentum. Here comes Stephen Parsons to make the move underneath Bilicki.
And Parsons with a big run, but as you can see, not going to be able to move up to the 33. Nearly brushes the left rear of that 99 truck directly in front of him. Bilicki's able to scurry away, and now Parsons having to play defense. Here comes Tyler Hill, run to the outside of the racetrack as they scurry on into 1.
Ferucci's got the freshest tires out of this group, but he doesn't have any room to get around this bunch. I think that's the big thing, is it looked like Todd Gilliland got sideways a little bit further back of this bunch, but it indicates to me, Jacob Seelman, that I'm not necessarily convinced this is contact. Ty Majeski gets into the 19 of Derek Kraus. Ryan Vargas stuffed up in the fence as well to bring out the yellow flag once again.
Caution is out, and that was a case of 2 drivers going aggressively for the same piece of real estate. Kraus in trouble for the second IceBox Pickup Throwdown event in a row. We'll get a look at the Dragonfire Tools instant replay, but this one I believe is pretty cut and dry. Kraus falling back on the bottom. Majeski with a big run to the outside, tries to cross over, slid back up, and just hooked Kraus around. And then here comes Vargas. Here comes everybody else that gets a piece of that.
Yeah, Majeski, I think, was trying to get in back behind Kraus before he left the door open for Christian Eckes to make the move around that number 45. And when he did come up, he was still alongside Derek Kraus and just didn't quite wait enough to get back up in line. So he turns Kraus. Majeski, already having used his fast repair, has pulled it behind the wall for the night. I can confirm that for you all watching at home. So Majeski is done for the evening. Looks like Ryan Truex got a good piece of this. Vargas was up in the fence and didn't really have anywhere to go. He just was riding that outside and happened to be the one that was right there when Kraus was all just pinned up against the fence. So we'll see a lot of these trucks that were involved in the incident come down pit road. And meanwhile, Eric Estepp track position looks like it's king because none of the front six decided to come down pit road this time by.
Yeah, I think that strategy, it's working so far, and they've pretty much made their bet at this point. I think y'all said it earlier that wait until this run continues as long as possible, and then they'll be able to lead pretty much the entire field down pit road. This might work out really well for Bailey Curry, Stewart Friesen, Jordan Anderson, Austin Wayne Sepp, and we saw some good racing up there in the top five for a few laps before things got messy. But yeah, 2 weeks in a row for Ty Majeski not getting the results I'm sure he was hoping for when he signed up for this pickup throwdown. Really interesting to see a favorite like that have issues like this.
A little bit of bad luck on Majeski's part. I think that last one, though, we can argue is a little bit more self-infliction. He came up into Kraus and got around just trying to get in line and make sure that he didn't lose too many spots. So that speaks to just the madness we've seen up at the front of this field, Blake McCandless, and the aggressiveness of these drivers. Makes you wonder, if you've got a fast repair in your pocket, does it change the way you race? You think you're the one with the most driving experience out of any of us in the server and any of us in the broadcast booth. So how do you feel a fast repair affects the mentality of these drivers?
Well, it's hard to say, James, because to be honest with you, if you've been out there on the sim for a little bit and you've done a lot of official racing, a fast repair hasn't really been something you're all too familiar with. It's really been ever since these guys have really embraced iRacing these last couple of months, and when you put on these shows that these fast repairs have really, I guess, become part of the racing. But absolutely, I think there is a certain degree of aggressiveness that you take in knowing that you have that in your back pocket, and once that's gone, that's something you have to reckon with and know that, you know, if I'm going to make certain moves that I wouldn't have made before because I don't want to, you know, get out of this race early. Now, unfortunately, it seems like the two drivers that have used both their fast repairs and they're well out of this thing, Tyler Ankrum, Brett from Moffitt, they were caught up in the first two accidents. It really didn't matter what they did. They were just going to be in bad luck, and they were forced to use that quick fast repair on that first caution flag. So, but a lot of these guys that are saving it, it's going to pay dividends, especially when you think we're not even 40 laps into this thing, 40% in the race, and we're still trying to find a way to go green here.
We'll take a moment to bring you a quick break, but we'll go side by side here so you don't miss any of the action under the yellow flag as Podium Esports brings you continued coverage of the Richmar Florist 100, race number 2 of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series from Kansas Speedway. Back to racing here at Kansas, this time by lap 39 will go up on the board as Bailey Curry and Stuart Friesen will lead this field back to the start-finish line and back to green flag competition in race number 2 of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series from Kansas Speedway. And our Richmar Florist 100 going to be a lot of fun for 5 bombs this evening who are going to get arrangements from Richmar from the top 5 finishers in this race. Richmar going to donate a few arrangements for Mother's Day on their behalf. So if you're Curry, Friesen, Anderson, Self, or Creed, you got some happy mamas hoping that this all holds out. But as it stands, all about Bailey Curry, who jumps back to the front and immediately gets away from Jordan Anderson, who got a great run to the inside of Stewart Friesen to take over that second spot before they get to turn 1.
Big run by Jordan Anderson to go to the 2 spot. What does Friesen have for a counterpunch? Nothing doing right now as Austin Wayne Self rim rides around the outside to go back to the 4 spot. He's working ahead of Sheldon Creed, Stephen Parsons, and now they go 2 wide and 3 wide, and Self gets turned. Self gets turned down to the inside, a long slide into turn number 3, but he doesn't hit anything. We stay green, and it's Sheldon Creed up to the 4 spot off turn 4.
And then the yellow flag comes out way at the end of all of that as it was tight racing, as you see on the Dragon Fire Tools instant replay. And looks like Austin Wayne Self just dropped down to the inside there. He was trying to get underneath Creed and got caught in a sandwich between Creed and then Stephen Parsons. And looks like Self just trying to roll down to the inside, but no damage to that 22 truck, incidentally, or the Parsons truck, it looked like. So I think Self in very good shape here. And if you're going to have an incident like that, Eric Estepp, that's the way you want it to happen. You go down to the inside, no one else gets swept up, and you get to save a fast repair for later in this race.
Definitely, that is going to be important for sure. Good thing that caution did come out for his sake, though, because for a second there, it looked like we might have kept it green, and that would have definitely spelled trouble for Austin Wayne South. But he escapes for the time being, and he doesn't have to use that fast repair. You said it. He's in a not the worst situation here. We'll see if anyone pits during this yellow flag. We might see some more varying strategies.
Not too many folks coming out. Todd Gilliland is going to make the turn down on the pit road, but it looks like he may well be the only one amongst the folks within the top 10, top 15 even, and beyond all that. Just looking here at the board, Jacob Schumann, and looking at some of the pit strategies, Santino Ferucci is the highest up of the drivers that had pitted within the last 15 laps or so, but everybody else here still largely made up of the groups that stayed out and decided to wait it out on pit road earlier on in this race.
It's that inevitable call of will it work or won't it work, James. Right now it's working, but I'm not convinced it's the answer all the way through. We're just going to have to wait and see the shuffle. And we really thought that I think fresh tires were going to make a difference, and Santino Ferucci is still mired in the 7th position back there just because he's been able to work his way a little bit through those that did not pit, but we just haven't had enough green laps.
Haven't had the opportunity to really see what these trucks can do on a green flag run. You're right, and it's been one of those cases where we've been waiting to see some of these folks jump out, and I think we've seen flashes and glimpses of good racing. We've seen Jordan Anderson and Stewart Friesen go at it pretty well. Sheldon Creed's had a good fight with Christian Eckes, and maybe the driver to watch here, Eric Estepp, Tyler Hill. We barely talked about him, but he came down 5 laps ago and is the first driver in this field amongst the folks who came down under the last caution before this one up into the 8th position.
Yeah, he managed to skirt through that last wreck and gain some traction, and also had a very good restart. He was definitely one to watch here with the freshest tires there in that top 10. I'm still watching Santino Ferucci. We saw how aggressive he was last weekend at Texas Motor Speedway on these restarts, and since it seems like this is a pretty restart-heavy portion of the race, we'll see if he can maybe make a few jumps here with those slightly fresher tires than a lot of the cars in front of him.
It'll be interesting to see how it pans out for Ferucci, who will start on the inside so long as everything else holds ahead of him on this restart, currently running in the 7th position. Plenty more to bring you this week on the world of iRacing's networks and the iRacing du jour races that we have over the course of the next few days. It starts tomorrow night with the Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational presented by Yokohama from Lucas Oil Raceway. They continue their campaign at 6 p.m. Eastern on iRacing's Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Then arguably the big show of the weekend, I would think. The IndyCar iRacing Challenge heads to the racing capital of the world. Indianapolis Motor Speedway will be the home of all the action at 2:30 p.m. Eastern on NBCSN, the NBC Sports app, and NBCSports.com/live before you get the two-pronged punch from NASCAR. First off, it's Saturday Night Thunder, featuring a lot of the drivers from the Xfinity Series and a lot of these drivers from the Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series. That'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern on eNASCAR.com/live. And then Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern, the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series takes to the Monster Mile, as you'll see all the action from Dover International Speedway on Fox, Fox Sports 1, and the Fox Sports app. Bailey Curry will lead them to green. Lap 44 will be our number when we come back across the track to get back to green flag racing. Then Anderson, Friesen, Creed, and Eckes. Parsons there too. And if you're looking at current stint numbers, which I think is going to be the one to watch, it's 43 laps for those front three. They've yet to come down. Sheldon Creed came down right after that first yellow and then hasn't been down since. 40 laps for him. Eckes has 21 laps on his tires. Parsons 29 on his. Ferucci 17, and then 7 on Tyler Hill. Josh Bilicki's also got 43 laps on his tires, and then everybody from 10th back to 16th all came down 7 laps to go. So fresh tires from about 10th on back. Let's see if they can charge up through the field when we get back green flag racing. Bailey Curry leads them to green again. A better restart, I think, from everybody behind Jordan Anderson and Stewart Friesen. Here goes Christian Eckes, who won last week at Texas, down to the inside of the 52 in the 3 truck to try and take away second.
Big launch 3 wide as Eckes, I think, is going to get clear of all this, but Stephen Parsons, the big man on the move, he's to the inside of Sheldon Creed and Jordan Anderson, who almost gets squeezed into the wall, and Parsons gets turned down the back straightaway, collects Anderson, collects Creed, they go spinning, Anderson goes sliding up the track in turn number 3, collects, I think that was Austin Terrio, and now there's more. Austin Wayne Self, Hermie Sadler, Angela Ruck, Matt Mills, Spencer, I believe that's Spencer Boyd down there on the bottom of the racetrack. Absolute chaos. Again, started down the back straightaway, James, and ended in a heap in turn 3.
I think we're going to see a lot of fast repairs used on this one as you take a look at the Dragonfire Tools instant replay. And it started with Parsons. That's where you look at everything. All the madness came about when he, Sheldon Creed, and Jordan Anderson got together. Creed just came down and got into Parsons, who came back up the racetrack, swept up Creed, swept up Anderson. We know that's Creed's fast repair used up already, so he won't have a way to repair this damage. I think Anderson had one. Parsons, I believe, already had used his, and then as they came back around to turn 3, that's really where this picked up. Terrio ended up with damage. He clips Jordan Anderson, and then Austin Wayne Shelf got sent up to the top side, and Angela Ruck got some damage. Hermie Sadler was caught up in this, I think. Maybe by bits and pieces, Ron Capps was able to slow down and just miss a lot of this. But again, a lot of trucks involved here. Looks like Josh Rayoum was also involved, spun around. Don't think he picked up too much damage, though, at least compared to the rest of the drivers in this. But I have a feeling that we're setting up for a cleaner second half of this race, Blake McCandless. But that might be solely by virtue of the fact that we aren't going to see too many folks with fast repairs left.
And, you know, sometimes, James, I've been involved in some of those sim races, whether it's here on iRacing or a couple of other sims I've delved into. And every once in a while, for one reason or another, you can blame the setup, you can blame the track, you can blame anything. But it's just one of those races where it seems like the more people there are, just that opportunity for a caution flag becomes so much higher. So like you said, it's almost going to be by virtue of elimination and just taking drivers out of this field that may be what's necessary to finally get us back under the green flag. And right there, that accident caused by a little bit of a 3-wide move there, and Creed came down the racetrack. There's several drivers that are going to be done after that accident after using that second fast repair. So hopefully, just like you said, as we continue to wind down the numbers here of who's left in this field, maybe, just maybe, that'll be the key to getting some green flag out on the racetrack.
Currently working lap 47 of 100 in the Richmar Florist 100 at Kansas Speedway. This is the second race of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series. But we'll take a moment at this time to bring you our midway race break, which is brought to you by the presenting partner of tonight's race, Richmar Florist.
Richmar Florist makes every day a special day, from weddings and large events to that little something for any occasion. Richmar Florist has the perfect floral expression, and they're open online 24/7 at richmarflorist.com. Everywhere, every day. Richmar's 2 retail locations offer a fantastic selection of floral creations, gifts, and home decor. Book your free consultation in our showroom for your special event needs, and visit us online at richmarflorist.com today.
There is our wonderful folks, or there are rather our wonderful folks at Richmar Florist reminding you that Mother's Day is right around turn 4, and you can join the top 5 finishers in tonight's race, and make sure that you send your mother the best when you visit richmarflorist.com. Christian Eckes is your leader over Stewart Friesen with 47, about to be 48 laps on the board at Kansas Speedway. Santino Ferucci has climbed into the 3rd spot. 4th belongs to Tyler Hill. Ryan Vargas runs in the 5th position. 6th is the 44 of Tommy Joe Martin's podium finisher in Monza Manus on Easter Sunday. Harrison Burton currently runs in 7th. 8th is Derek Krause to the 19. Todd Gilliland currently runs to the 9th spot. And 10th belongs to Howie DiSavino.
Anthony Alfredo sits 11th with Jason White in 12th. Matt Mills runs 13th. Angela Ruck is 14th. Josh Balicki is 15th, Bailey Curry 16th, Sheldon Creed, Hermie Sadler, Austin Terrio, and Josh Rayum, the top 20.
Last car in the lead lap is Jordan Anderson in 21st. 22nd scored 1 lap down is Kaz Gralla. 23rd, Stephen Parsons. 24th is Natalie Decker. 25th is Ryan Truex. 26th, Brennan Poole. 27th, Spencer Boyd. 28th, Ron Capps. 29th now is Austin Wayne Self. And then these drivers are not going to see the checkered flag in this one. They've gone to the garage. Ty Majeski, Chase Briscoe, Tyler Ankrum, and Brett Moffitt. A couple of big names, but they are out early here in Kansas Speedway.
And that concludes our Richmar Florist Midway race break. And once again, you can head on to richmarflorist.com to find out more information about them and make sure you get your mother the perfect arrangement for Mother's Day. As Christian Eckes leads this group, and now we get to see what Santino Ferucci can do on those fresh tires. He's got it better than just about anybody ahead of him. The problem is that Tyler Hill has the fresher rubber Jacob Seelman and is right behind him.
That's true, and Tyler Hill is making a charge in a hurry as he works side by side with Stewart Friesen, who kept the momentum up on the outside, trying to hold the 3rd spot. Hill to the bottom of the racetrack, sails it into turn number 3. He may be able to slide up in front of Friesen here. He will do that. Ryan Vargas on the attack, trying to go to the middle of the racetrack. Hill slides up across Friesen's nose. They make contact, and Friesen gets kicked way out of the groove, 4 wide to turn 1.
That isn't going to work, and somebody's going to go around. It's Derek Krause to the 19 machine, who gets hit by Todd Gilliland, and the yellow flag comes out once again. You had a feeling that that might be the way that ends up once they went 4 wide into the narrowest point on the racetrack. And as we bring you the Dragon Fire Tools instant replay, we'll show you exactly what happened. It was Harrison Burton down on the bottom, who got tight to start all of this, at least so far as the entry to one is concerned. They were racing side by side all the way down the front straightaway, but Burton gets up into Krause. Looks like Burton and Krause both go around. Stewart Friesen gets damaged trying to avoid it. Anthony Alfredo just snuck to the high side to get away from it. Krause gets hit by Todd Gilliland, who then got hit himself by Howie DiSavino. They all bounce off the fence, and then I think everything cleared out, but not before significant amounts of damage were brought upon the 32 truck and the 38 truck and the 19 truck as well, Blake McCandless.
And that's just been the story of this race, James, is can we find a way to get going green? A couple of drivers there escape, and It's just unfortunate. We've seen a lot of aggressive moves, and this is really what we've been talking about the whole race long, is why these restarts are so important. It is so hard to pass here at Kansas with the high side being as dominant as it is. I know we haven't necessarily been able to showcase that, but it's being represented in how hard these guys are racing and how they're clawing to get to that top side. They're trying to make moves by guys on these restarts because it's so hard to pass, and that's what's causing all of these accidents. And unfortunately, for just everybody out there, we're trying to do the best we can, but it just seems like for the time being, until these guys kind of sell it on out, we're just going to have to wait and see if these guys are going to be able to get going.
Stewart Friesen was one of the trucks that came down pit road, no surprise, after the damage he picked up in that incident that brought out the yellow. Same can be said about Todd Gilliland, Matt Mills, Sheldon Creed, Austin Terrio, Josh Reum, and Hermie Sadler, also part of the group that came down for service this last time by. They will restart right in the ballpark about 13th, 14th on back to about 19th, 20th once this all sorts out. So the back half of that top 20 and the 15th to 20th range is where you're going to see a lot of those drivers. But at the front of this field, you look at the names up there. We don't have anybody who's stayed out yet. And all those 40-plus lap drivers who have been out on tires for a good chunk of this race, all finally coming down pit road. So it's now Christian Eckes, who has the oldest tires in the field, Eric Estepp, but also is going to have the lead on this restart.
It's all about having that track position. We've seen on pretty much every restart so far tonight, the leader's been able to jump away and kind of get to safety, kind of escape there. But now he does have a couple of very hungry drivers and some very fresh tires behind him, with Santino Ferucci restarting his outside. You got Hill there in third. Ryan Vargas is now back up into the first two rows. You're starting to see, if you look at that top 10, drivers who maybe were involved in some of the earlier accidents have been able to claw their way back up into this thing. The field's almost inverted in a sense from where it was about 20 laps ago. So some new challengers up there to try and compete with last week's winner.
And Jacob Seelman, I think it's time to turn our attention to the 23 of Ryan Vargas, the unnamed West Coast burger chain here inspired paint scheme that we can't actually say, but can definitely take a nod to. It's a beautiful looking truck. And after that incident where he got into Derek Krause in turn 3, the fast repairs burned up, but that 23 truck has been fast since he used the fast repair.
Leave it to the connoisseur of chicken nuggets to have food on his race vehicle, James. Of course, this is a Ryan Vargas inspired scheme. This is what Vargas does, and it makes the rest of us smile. It's great. I love it, and we see him riding in the 4th position right now, and it's going to be good. He's been quiet, but he's been very quietly good since he got up to there, and I think he's restarting in a position where he might be able to make something happen here on this next restart. If he can get up to the top 2 or 3 spots, Christian Eckes as the control truck has been able to get away. But somebody like a Ferucci who's just ahead of Vargas, or a Vargas, they're not out of this by any stretch of the imagination.
And more importantly, once we get back going, look at where the group is going to start. You chuck in Harris and Burton in that mix too. All of Ferucci and Vargas and Burton are restarting on that outside lane, which is exactly where you want to be once you get going at Kansas, Blake McCandless. But we've seen on restarts that whoever the control truck is has had a good chance to build up some momentum and get the gap spaced out by about 2 or 3 truck lengths before we get to turn 1.
You're exactly right. Whoever's able to get that launch really has that momentum that you need to carry along the high sides. These trucks, again, almost on the edge of the speed that they're capable of running there on the top side. So that's exactly where you want to be. But who's going to be able to get it? I think it'll be Christian Eckes, obviously experienced on the sim, last week's winner. But obviously you can't throw out Ferucci either. He played some pit strategy last week, had a very fast Sealmaster Toyota as he does this week, and now we'll be able to see he started 23rd. He's up in 2nd. We'll see what he's able to do if he can time this one out right.
Eckes takes off, and there's the gap, which Santino Ferucci will immediately try to fill. Tyler Hill tried to get underneath him, didn't have any room. Meanwhile, Vargas stays up top. He's going to have Harrison Burton to his outside, as Vargas is going to go down to the bottom, I think, just to make sure that he can slide up in front of the 26 machine and maintain that spot. Here comes Burton, though, with a big run out of 2.
Big run for Harrison Burton, trying to get back to Vargas's inside. He took the look, has to settle it in. Top 5 go single file to turn 3, led by Santino, Ferucci in second. It's a 4-truck line. Ferucci, then Tyler Hill, then Ryan Vargas, who takes a peek down half a groove, then Harrison Burton. They lead the train off 4. First battle is around 7th place.
Really good stuff there between Anthony Alfredo, Tommy Joe Martins, and the 33 truck. That's Josh Bilicki, all racing side by side for position. But you have to be careful, Blake McCandless, of how do you slide up into the groove, and Bilicki's going to lose a few spots as he's stuck on the bottom.
Well, it kind of reminds me of about what you saw here at Richmond here on the iRacing service, where the bottom was where you wanted to be. At Kansas, it's all about the top side. At 33, he'll keep it pinned down on the bottom, looking to try and find his way up. He's doing a good job, as Josh Bilicki, of trying to get up to the top side. But as mentioned, that momentum just enough to hold him up there. Bilicki's still going to try to go for the pass on Tommy Joe Martins into 2.
Bilicki going to try and make it happen on Tommy Joe. Meanwhile, Ryan Vargas slides up ahead of Tyler Hill to take over that 3rd position. Nice work from Vargas to get around Hill coming out of 4 that last time by. He made that pass on the front straightaway. Looks like Harrison Burton will try to do the same this time by out of 4.
Harrison Burton trying. He looks down all the way to the apron on the white line, trying to make that pass. Vargas is just ahead of this mix, but they're side by side down into turn number 1. Tyler Hill versus Harrison Burton, and Hill holds him off.
Hill will hang on to that spot. Burton's going to go up top, get back into the racing groove. Anthony Alfredo looked to the inside, thought about it for a moment, and then thought better of it and decided to tuck back in line right in front of Tommy Joe Martins. But a good battle brewing between Martins and Bailey Curry. That would be for the 7th position, Blake McCandless. They got Josh Bilicki in tow.
And Curry led a good portion of this race before coming down pit road. Now he's looking to make his way forward as he'll look to try to get around the Tommy Joe Martins Chevrolet. Here comes Bailey Curry to the inside, 44 hanging strong on the outside. It'll be Tommy Joe Martins who's able to hang on, but here comes Curry looking under Anthony Alfredo, who checks up Tommy Joe Martins.
Curry down to the inside with a big move. He'll try and slide it up just ahead of Alfredo. Won't have the track position to do it. Meanwhile, Ryan Vargas with all kinds of pressure on the rear bumper of that number 18 Seal Master Toyota Tundra of Santino Ferucci. Those two already. Oh, big wreck behind, though, to bring out the yellow flag. Bilicki's involved. Curry's involved. Tommy Joe Martins is involved. Jason White swept up in this, and the yellow flag out once again to the Richmar Florist 100 at Kansas.
And there's another case of it, as Tommy Joe Martins was on the outside of Bailey Curry. Curry went to try and shove his way to the outside, but unfortunately the nose of that Silverado of Tommy Joe Martins was out there and waiting. And at about the fastest portion here at the Kansas Speedway, as these guys are topping nearly 180 miles per hour as they go off into turn 1, that sent Bailey's truck flipping and caught several trucks behind them with nowhere to go. You mentioned a couple of drivers swept up in this one. Joshua Bilicki with heavy damage. Jason White, Stewart, Friesen, he gets apart. Actually, he saves it and just barely avoids getting wrapped up in that one. But again, that is a dangerous spot. Their worst spot on the racetrack to get wrecked there is on the entrance to turn 1.
Was about to say that Stewart Friesen might have a Dragonfire Tools instant replay shot for the ages here, because he saw his race flash right before his eyes as they all wrecked in the entrance to 1 Jacobs Seal. But everything happens up top here. The 83 truck gets swept up in this. Tommy Joe Martins gets turned around in all this madness, and Friesen just got to the inside of Jason White before White got swept up in the incident to avoid it all and keep his trunk in one piece.
And that's going to be a big, big deal, because I still feel like Stewart Friesen has race-winning pace in that 52 truck. So the fact that he was able to get through this without any serious issues is a very, very good thing for him, and potentially a very, very bad thing for everybody else. But yet again, Christian Eckes being the control truck is a big deal here, because now we're inside of 40 laps to go. It's going to be about 35 to go by the time we get the green flag back. And the more of these wrecks we keep having and the less green flag racing we keep having, the better it is for Christian Eckes, who has basically been able to fire off every single restart and not really have to worry about being challenged by anybody.
If we're looking for notables who came down pit road, you can include to that list Sheldon Creed, Tyler Hill in particular, who'd been running in the top 5. Todd Gilliland came down for service. Josh Balicki and Josh Raum, of course, in as well after their incident. Jordan Anderson came down for service too. So a few names there from about 10th to 20th that are going to try and use track position and tire strategy to climb up through this field. You figure that they get a few more yellow flags and they might try and stay out the rest of the way, I think, Eric Estepp. If you're pitting now, it's about lap 62. We'll get the restart around 35 laps to go. That's almost how you have to play it. As you come down now, but after this caution, you're done. You have to stay out. Otherwise, you're not going to gain the track position back. And then you just hope that people cycle behind you as they come in a little bit later in the race, and you climb to the front of the field that way.
For sure, and it definitely is even more interesting now because there's only, I'll have to check the leaderboard, I think there's only 17 or 18 trucks still on the lead lap, so there's a little bit less risk involved now with coming into pit, especially if you're outside the top 10. You're not going to lose too much track position, and you're right, this could be actually possibly a race-winning strategy because as the racing continues to pick up front, we might see some different strategies. We might even see some more wrecks, and if you're back there and able to get through them, this could time out absolutely perfectly for some of those guys around 10th to 15th.
As we'll take a moment under the yellow flag to remind you that tonight's coverage of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown is brought to you by iRacing, the world's leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. iRacing is home to a wide variety of officially sanctioned series, with racing from the Australian Supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. With over 130,000 drivers on the service and over 80 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is the original esports racing game. For more information, you can visit iRacing.com today. And we know there are a few more tracks that are going to be joining the iRacing roster. And I almost feel like this is the preemptive time to talk about it just a little bit, Jacob Seelman. But the big one coming up, I think, North Wilkesboro, which incidentally was part of the NASCAR Super Truck Series powered by Craftsman back in 1995, the first year of racing in this series. What a treat it would be to see these trucks racing at North Wilkesboro once again in the sim.
I have been going back and forth with a few of our friends at iRacing who have said and hinted that when North Wilkesboro does get released, that the trucks are going to be very, 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 I even counted in the text, 7 varies fun at North Wilkesboro. That is not even a question. And if there's one thing that I'm looking forward to, it is seeing a full-scale let's do this virtual truck race as one of the first things that I watch when that track is released to the iRacing service, because yeah, the entertainment value will be through the roof when it comes to that. As it is, we're getting geared up for a full-scale restart with what I believe is going to be 36 laps to go here. It's Christian Eckes and Santino Ferucci on the front row, a pair of 18s. Then behind them, it's Ryan Vargas, Harrison, Burton, Anthony Alfredo, and Stewart Friesen. Green flag goes back in the air. Eckes on the jump. Ferucci slots into second. First side-by-side battles for third, but Vargas wants more.
Vargas looking to the inside to try and clear Harrison. Burton might be roles reversed for the last restart, in which Vargas had the top side, but not at the moment. It's going to be Vargas who tried to get to the top and couldn't quite make it up there. He's debating whether or not he wants to try it and then decided to stay down there. So we could see a slide job here from Vargas to make sure that he gets the spot. Otherwise, it's going to be all Harrison Burton who slides around the high side to get around the number 23 truck. So Burton will move up a spot into P3 and try and chase after Santino Ferucci, who I think finally is starting to make his presence known at the front of the field, and his presence known maybe more importantly to that other 18 truck just in front of him of Christian Eckes.
And we'll see if he's able to do that. However, Harrison Burton slowly on the march, starting to pull up to the back of that Ferucci machine, is now Burton in that outside preferred line as they'll work it through 3 and 4. Once again, here's a look down to the inside for Harrison Burton, side by side off of 4. Burton will go all the way to the apron. He'll get drafting help from Eckes.
If you're going to try and get down to the bottom and pull this off, this is the one part of the racetrack where you can pull it off, Jacob Seelman. The run coming from the top to the bottom, down the front straightaway, and then the slide up in 1 and 2, which is exactly what Harrison Burton pulls off as Ferucci goes underneath him. Beautiful job by Burton to make that happen to get the top lane.
He pulled it off, but Ferucci immediately back with the counterpunch. They go side by side into turn 3, but you can't make that dive work as well into 3 as you can into 1, and Burton holds the spot. It opens the door for the Josh Bilicki machine. Are they going to go 3 wide for third? Yes, they are. Bilicki to the bottom of the racetrack. Ferucci is there. Friesen is there. Bilicki takes third now with a big slide down into turn 1, as up front, Harrison Burton 3 car lengths back of your leader, Christian Eckes.
Bilicki was a spinning top no less than 10 to 15 laps ago when they wrecked in turn 1. And with the fresh tires, he's already up into P3, beginning to set chase. It's Harrison Burton in the number 26 truck to try and get that second spot, while Burton tries to run down Christian Eckes for the race lead. Our winner last week at Texas has been unchallenged within the last, maybe 20, 25 laps or so. But Blake McCandless, that might not stand for too much longer. Plenty of trucks with speed behind him. Maybe Bilicki even might be the one with the fresh rubber to go get it.
And one truck I'm looking at is Stewart Friesen right now, who's on the inside of Ferucci. This is the battle for fourth. You move Anthony Alfredo into this battle. Alfredo will stay and put on the top side. Friesen will go for the slide job. Oh, but he's not able to do it. Ferucci the outside wall, and there's contact. Alfredo and Ferucci here on the front straightaway. Does Ferucci tag anyone else? No, he's able to save it here as the rest of the trucks scatter around him. Caution as we approach lap 70, and what was almost a big moment for Ferucci. He gets into the outside wall after Friesen is able to complete the slide job on the exit of 4, and caution flag is out once again here at Kansas.
It was tight for Santino Ferucci, who quite simply was just trying to maintain the momentum up high. As you see the Dragonfire Tools instant replay, that was just trying to stay alongside Friesen, drove too hard out of turn 4, got the fence, bounced off of it into Anthony Alfredo, who then went around with the 18 truck. And a nice job by Ferucci in particular to lock it down to the brakes, Jacob Seelman, and make sure that he didn't collect anyone else. That was an incident where you felt like with the way Ferucci slid up, he could have caught maybe 2 or 3 more trucks and gotten them swept up in it. But at the end of the day, Ferucci still able to keep that truck at least in some form of one piece, and more importantly, not collect anyone else in the process.
More importantly, 2 things here. How did Stewart Friesen not get hooked in that melee? And more importantly, how did Santino Ferucci not get plowed into by about 3 separate trucks in that exchange? I have no idea, but at the same time, the fact that that wasn't any worse than it was, I'm borderline speechless, and you know that doesn't happen very often.
Here's something that might give you a few words to think about, though. Leaders are on pit road. Christian Eckes pits from P1. Harrison Burton there with him. Ryan Vargas, Austin Terrio, Stephen Parsons, Sheldon Creed, Kaz Gralla, Hermie Sadler, Matt Mills, Jordan Anderson, Santino Ferucci, Todd Gilliland, Anthony Alfredo, Josh Raum. We could just about throw pit strategy out the window, I think, Eric Estepp, because everybody in the top 10 just decided to come down for tires.
Yeah, a bit surprising there, but for sure those leaders have been out there for quite a bit on tires, and since everyone's coming now, it's going to make things kind of just an even mad dash to the finish for these last 25, 26 laps, however many we get off, as it looks like Christian Eckes is able to come out ahead of Harrison Burton there.
And as the race carries off of pit road, it is Eckes who just beats Harrison Burton to be the first truck off of pit road. And as they catch back up to the rest of the field, we'll remind you that tonight's broadcast of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown is brought to you by Gen Y Hitch. Gen Y Hitch realizes the importance of protecting investments, and that's why they strive to create innovative hitches for you and your team. Visit their website at www.genyhitch.com to find out more about Gen Y Hitch and support their American-made products. So Eckes is the first truck off of pit road. And as we circulate around Kansas Speedway under yellow, the 3 names you need to know: Josh Bilicki, Stewart Friesen, and Tyler Hill. All on 11-lap-old, 21-lap-old, and 10-lap-old tires, respectively. So Friesen's got the oldest rubber at the front of this field, Blake McCandless. And now that Eckes is up there, we saw earlier when we had about 6 or 7 trucks that were all out on old tires, it took a bit for some of the drivers on the new rubber to get to the front of the field, although we saw proof from Ferucci and Vargas and Burton Company that it can be done. Now that there are only 3 trucks on old rubber, do you feel like that they might just get swamped and the new rubber might just take over almost immediately?
Well, that's the thinking, James, is I thought when I saw Harrison Burton and Christian Eckes duck onto pit road that they were going to be a lonely crowd down there, but they pretty much were able to pull everybody behind them, save for those 3 trucks with them. So I think these guys with that fresh rubber, they're going to be able to make pretty quick work of this top 3. And I think it was a strategy call where guys like Bilicki, guys like Friesen, they were hoping that more would stay out, and then obviously you get a huge battle between old tires and new tires, but I just don't think there's going to be enough. I think Eckes and Burton, with how much speed they've shown here today, it's just going to be a matter of who has the preferred line, but once they're able to make that way through the slower traffic on those older tires, you're just going to be able to pull these guys.
And how quickly can they get down to the bottom and make some of these passes to get to the front? That might be the other question that we need to know, as lights should go off on the pace car and do this time by, which means our restart will come on lap 75. 26 laps to go in the Richmar Florist 100, the second race of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series. Is Bilicki and Friesen will be your first 2, and then Tyler Hill to the inside and Christian Eckes. How dangerous is that, Eric Estepp? Eckes on the top side with fresh tires.
Oh, I'd expect a big move going off into turn 1 right here for sure. It's going to be really interesting to see if Eckes or Burton can carve through this traffic quicker. Those are your top 2 finishers last week. I bet they have maybe a little game amongst themselves perhaps here on this next restart.
Well, this makes me wonder if Bilicki's saying something to the effect of, please let this be a normal field trip, and everybody else behind him with his fresh tires gives the classic response of, with the frizz, no way, because there's absolutely no chance that you're not going to see some of these drivers with fresh tires push for all it's worth on this restart. I think that might be the first Magic School Bus reference we've been able to make on a Podium Esports broadcast ever. So breaking new ground here as we get set to go back racing. The Richmar Florist 100 on lap 75. And there goes Eckes to the outside. He didn't even wait to get to turn 1 before he made a move. He jumped to the outside of Stewart. Friesen to go 3 wide for P2 and potentially jump to second before we even get to the back straightaway. Jacob Seelman.
I think Friesen spun the tires, and Eckes took full advantage to the outside of Friesen. Eckes goes to third to the outside of Tyler Hill. He was going for second, but they're wrecking in the back. Caution flag back out again.
Caution flag is out again. I believe it was Terrio who was the first one to go around in this particular case. We'll take a look at the Dragonfire Tools instant replay and show you what happens. Tough racing and a lot of contact going into the corner there. Almost looks like that Kaz Grotto was set up into Terrio by Stephen Parsons, who was just sort of stuck in the middle. I don't think Grotto recognized that Parsons was still there. They bounced up into Terrio and everybody went around. Looks like Parsons got into, or not Parsons, rather Grotto got into Matt Mills, who then got absolutely doored to pieces by Terrio, and then everybody came in behind him. Josh Rayum was caught up in this. Ryan Vargas just snuck through. Jordan Anderson had nowhere to go. Anthony Alfredo couldn't avoid it. Neither could Todd Gilliland in the 38 truck, and Tommy Joe Martins might have been one of the few, Eric Estepp, who just managed to sneak through this at the end.
Yeah, definitely not what you wanted to see there, especially took out a lot of good trucks there in the top 10. Looks like, wow, one truck almost surfing across the field as they came down the banking there. A lot of good trucks with nowhere to go, but you said it, a couple guys were able to sneak through. Ryan Vargas going to make up some serious track position. We'll see what he has for the leaders here in the final run of this race.
It almost feels a bit like a short track race as Friesen's going to come down pit road, and he's going to have company in the form of Matt Mills, who I think will probably at least want to try and clean up the damage from that incident as best he can, along with Todd Gilliland and Jordan Anderson and Hermie Sadler, who, true to form, Blake McCandless has got a clean truck here, had to use his fast repair earlier, but he's been waiting. My hunch is that it might be time to start going if you're the O2.
And that's exactly right. He was well behind that accident when it started, and that's the benefit of being all the way back there in the pack. He pits every time by, gets his truck repaired if he has any damage, which right now he doesn't, gets 4 fresh tires, and then just sits back and watches these guys aren't able to complete his lap. And I'll tell you what, he's got the cleanest race truck out here other than maybe our race leaders, so you're exactly right. And the thing is, by this strategy, he comes down pit road once again. I don't think that he thinks they're done yet. So they're just going to keep going and going. And, I'll tell you what, I don't think anybody's had to work less to get a top 10 these last 2 weeks than our good man Herbie Sadler.
He'll take what he can get, Blake McCandless. He's been as high as 10th on one restart or coming towards one restart. He was 11th on the most recent restart before he just came back down pit road. And you got to believe if they keep crashing, he's going to have a shot to get a little bit higher even still. So the man from Virginia has a plan. He's stuck to it. And James Pike, Blake and I have watched this now 2 weeks in a row, as you said, true to form, and you're correct. Hermie Sadler's not too bad at this thing.
Got a few closer type vibes on a Kevin Harvick to him and the way he's approached these IceBox Pickup Throwdown races, but still very cool, I think, to see Hermie Sadler get involved. And Hermie's a driver that's had tons of experience. Obviously, we know the Sadler name has got tons of experience across all of NASCAR's top 3 divisions, but Hermie, you could trace his career all the way back to 1992 in what it is now the NASCAR Xfinity Series. So I think in that sense, pretty cool, Eric Estepp, that you've got somebody like Hermie Sadler who's seen so much of the sport involved in this. Most of the names here, usually folks right around 15 to 25, some of the newer blood in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. But that's not to say that you can't make it happen if you've got a little bit more gray on your chin and maybe a little bit more wisdom on top of it.
Yeah, it really shows that this type of racing is really there for anyone and everyone to participate in. It has been really cool, especially over the last few weeks with there being a lack of real world racing. A lot of different drivers from a lot of different generations and a lot of different disciplines have really taken to iRacing and really have embraced what it has to offer and have had a whole lot of fun with it and have given a lot of fans something new to kind of root for. It's been really cool to see Hermie Sadler have some fun these first 2 weeks.
And Sadler, I think he and Bobby Labonte might best understand iRacing's place as a supplement, but not necessarily a substitute to the real world thing. And I think if you approach it with that and try and have fun with it more than anything else, you get the most out of it more often than not, as so many of the other sim racers in the community would tell you. As Bilicki will get ready to lead us to green on lap 80 of 121 laps to go in the second race of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series, the Richmar Florist 100 from Kansas Speedway. Bilicki and Hill both stayed out, and then Eckes, Burton, Ferucci, Vargas, Truex, Friesen, Gilliland, Mills, your top 10 in all of them came down within the last 7 laps. So you've got those old tires up front. They're going to try and hang on as best they can, and it's going to be all about what happens amongst this group on the outside. And maybe Jacob Seelman will see Harrison Burton try to get the same restart Christian Eckes did that last time by.
I would sooner see Eckes. I know what Harrison's going to try to do, but I think Eckes may have enough of a run here that he's going to be able to at least prevent Burton from getting in front of him. We're about to find out. Good jump for Josh Bilicki. Eckes is going to follow him to the bottom of the racetrack. Burton's going to follow in the tire tracks of the 18 of Eckes. Christian Eckes to second. Christian Eckes knocking on the back bumper of Josh Bilicki. Christian Eckes peaking high, side by side for third. Harrison Burton and Tyler Hill as Eckes takes the peak. He looks to the outside. He gets the run. He crosses down low. Battle for the lead in turn 3.
Bilicki had to go up top, and he nearly got turned by Eckes, but it might not matter depending on how this pans out. But Eckes couldn't quite get to the top side enough, so Bilicki's going to hang on for now. Here comes Tyler Hill to the inside of Harrison Burton, maybe along the door of Eckes, who did not get a run down the front straightaway, and Eckes gets turned. Eckes got hit by Tyler Hill, and he goes around in turn 1 to bring out the yellow flag once again, and there was just slight contact between the 12 and the 18 coming down the front straightaway as Hill rode up the racetrack. Eckes was just an innocent bystander in this case, as you'll see on the Track and Fire Tools instant replay, and just sort of minding his own business, and Hill was trying to sweep up and pinch him as much as he could and just got into the side of the 18. Harrison Burton had nowhere to go. Stewart Friesen, I think, caught a little bit of damage on the right side of his truck and the front side of his truck. Not much he could have done to avoid it. Absolutely nothing that Ryan Truex could have done in this case. Engine busted on that 40, and my hunch would be that might be race over for him, just with all the damage that he picked up earlier in this race, Blake McCandless.
And it looks like that's certainly the case as a couple of drivers. Ryan Truex got caught up in that as well. And again, just more drivers who have used up their quick repairs. But like you said, James, I have to agree with you right there. Nothing Christian Eckes could have done. He was defending high. I was surprised at how well Tyler Hill got off of 4 there. Obviously, Harrison Burton went and protected the Heinlein, gave Hill the bottom to make that run. But Hill had a big head of steam for those old tires, so he was able to make his way forward. Good news, though, if you're a Christian Eckes fan, he still has that fast repair in his back pocket, so he's going to be able to pull out here, and with only 13 cars on the lead lap, he's going to be able to come out of pit road, and he's still not out of this thing. So safe flight repair, safe flight replace, he's going to be back in this thing.
Yeah, emphasis on that safe flight replace part of it. I think that's a gold star for the way you're working in plugins there, Michaelis. Don't know if I've ever heard anybody do it right or do it better than that point. But Eric Estepp now with Jordan Anderson, and going to get us a different perspective on how the things have panned out here with the last 30 laps or so.
Yeah, we've got our in-race reporter, Jordan Anderson, here with us. Jordan, looks like you're sneaking back into the top 10 there. How's that damage on that 3 truck? How's it running?
Man, I tell you, I thought we had a shot out of there and get back in the top 5 maybe, and those guys wrecked there in 1 and 2 and just had nowhere to go. We got running from behind, but got a lot of damage. Truck's pretty tore up, so we're just trying to make the most of it. Sitting here in the pits, getting some damage fixed up. So for the guys, beat this thing back into some kind of good shape, and we'll just get out there and try and ride around and bring it home, and hope more of these guys wreck out.
For sure. It's been a pretty chaotic race out there. You've dodged some wrecks. You've been involved in some. How difficult is it to kind of manage strategy and also manage track position in a race like this?
Yeah, it's definitely tough. It's deceiving because you think you can go a little harder and making sure we get out here before the pace car puts us a lap down. But, it's been crazy to see how this race has gone. A lot of guys have been really aggressive. So 17 laps to go here. I think you're going to see a green-white checker before this thing's over because it's so tempting to dive off in there on fresh tires and do a slide job in front of the guy beside you. So I think it's going to be interesting. And like Sheldon Creed just said over the radio here, whoever's got a truck that's in good shape that goes fast here at the end is going to probably win this thing.
For sure. Well, best of luck out there. I'll see what you can do. See if you can take advantage of other people's misfortune out there. We'll be watching.
We're going to try, man. Thanks, Eric.
Eric Estepp and Jordan Anderson there, driver of the number 3 truck. Supremo at Jordan Anderson Racing, and a fellow Belmont Abbey College graduate is Anderson as Balicki paces this field under yellow once more. We'll take a moment to remind you that tonight's broadcast of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown is, of course, brought to you by our presenting partner of tonight's race, Richmar Florist. Richmar Florist knows racing, but they also know flowers, too. Backed by 4 generations of family excellence since 1955, Richmar Florist continues to provide beautiful floral arrangements for all of life's occasions. Mother's Day is right around turn 4 on May 10th, and you can join tonight's top 5 performers and send Mother the best arrangements by visiting www.richmarflorist.com. And if you missed our note earlier, the top 5 finishers are going to get free arrangements for their mothers on Mother's Day, courtesy of our friends at Richmar Florist, who I know are tuning in, and we thank Richmar for their support of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series. Field will come to lap 85. Will the lights go off on the pace car? Survey shows. Yes, they do. So the restart to come on lap 86. 15 laps to go. Balicki, Hill, Ferucci, Vargas, Friesen, Decker, Sadler, Anderson, Terrio, and Gilliland, and Blake McCandless. There's a name we haven't really talked about at all, but look at Natalie Decker's truck in the 42. She's got one of the cleanest trucks in this field. I almost wonder if she's fallen in the Herbie Sadler camp, but just waiting for the right time to make the move. And here she is with 15 laps to go.
Well, she was caught up, if you can remember, all the way back in those first couple of wrecks. She got involved in that, and ever since then, just kind of been working her way back up. She was scored a couple of laps down, took a wave around, got up back onto the lead lap, and obviously there's 14 trucks on the lead lap, and Decker has smartly worked her way by a couple of accidents. So while Burton's in the back, while Christian Eckes is back there, a couple of names like Natalie Decker, like Hermie Sadler, have just found their way up front, and now they got a chance to try and go after this win here.
What will Balicki do? What will Hill do? Remember, they've got the oldest tires in this group by about 10 laps. Everybody else came in either 13 laps ago or sooner. So Another thing to note, maybe the old rubber might play into this, but Bilicki has the lead, and we come back to green flag racing. That 33 truck gets a good jump. Tyler Hill immediately drops to the bottom. Santino, Ferucci underneath Ryan Vargas. They're about 3 and 4 wide, a little bit further back. They fan out almost 5 wide, way back there. And there goes Tommy Joe Martins into the fence, and the yellow flag will come out once again. Jacob Seelman, there just wasn't any way that was going to work after they were just about 5 wide and on the apron coming into one that time by.
That is exactly right. That never had a prayer of working. Tommy Joe Martins got turned to start it. Christian Eckes picks up damage to the right front in that exchange. Brett Moffitt looked to be involved. We get a look at the Dragonfire Tools instant replay here. You see everybody start scrambling. Eckes is trying to go up the outside to get clear of the mess. Tommy Joe all the way to the bottom. They are 5 wide for a moment, and then he gets hooked by, was that the 0-2?
It was indeed the 0-2
Spencer Boyd.
Spencer Boyd, yeah. Boyd gets into Tommy Joe. Everything sets off from there. Other drivers involved include Brennan Poole in the 15, Jordan Anderson, who we just spoke to. Ron Capps got some damage in his number 28 truck. Christian Eckes, you already mentioned. I think Matt Mills might have gotten a piece of this. Maybe, maybe not. He's already got some damage from some of the earlier incidents. Sheldon Green was able to sneak by on the inside. I think he'll appreciate actually having some luck for the first time tonight, Eric Estepp. But again, just 5 wide at Kansas going into one. It looks great, but this is not Homestead. It doesn't necessarily work all the time.
Yeah, I was going to say it was fun to watch for a few moments there, but pretty predictably it turned tragic very quickly. But didn't affect the top 6 or so who are all still out there in fairly clean race trucks. So they're just kind of hoping everyone cleans it up behind him, because I think if we can get racing here these last 10 or 15 laps, that front pack is going to put on quite a show. So I'll be interested to see what happens here.
The war of attrition leading to a big battle at the end of this, as we take a moment to remind you that tonight's broadcast of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown is, of course, brought to you by our friends at IceBox Helmet Coolers. The IceBox Helmet Cooler represents an innovative air cooling solution for personal and confined environments where space, weight, and power consumption are critical considerations. Visit iceboxracing.com to learn more about the IceBox Helmet Cooler and find out how it can be applied to the racing, aviation, and aerospace industries. As it's still Bilicki out front. He's looked like a genius just off this track position, Jacob Seelman. But if we get green flag racing here, and especially when you consider the restart cycles that these tires have been put under, Bilicki's got the oldest tires in the field, only by a lap over Tyler Hill. But I have to figure that's got to play into consideration towards the end of this race, too, that there may be more wear than usual, just because it takes more to get these tires going under a restart. For those who don't necessarily understand the physics behind it and haven't had a chance to examine it, these tires almost act like light bulbs in that sense, where it takes more energy to turn a light bulb on than it does to actually keep it running for a few minutes. Same sort of idea with restart cycles, where it takes more energy and it wears out the tires more to get them going from pace speed back to race speed than it does to run them at race speed for 10 laps. So all of that considered, are you a little bit more worried than usual if you're Bilicki?
I would be if it were me, especially when you consider how aggressive the cat that's going to restart third in the Sealmaster 18 truck is. Santino Ferucci, I think, is going to have something to say on this restart. And James, let's keep in mind, by the way, that Ferucci just 24 hours ago it is in a situation where he actually finished second in both of the IROC Invitationals on Wednesday night. So he's going to want, I think, a little bit of redemption, and a win tonight in the IceBox Pickup Throwdown would be the way to do it.
A little bit of redemption, but I think tip of the hat to him and to Ron Capps in particular, who runs in the 17th spot in these fields. Both of them, we've mentioned it a little bit, but I think credit to both of them just during this period since everything was suspended back in mid-March. I don't know of any other drivers, Eric Estepp, who have really just embraced trying to run everything and anything the way these two have. And I think we have to give them credit for trying to jump into races and things that you wouldn't necessarily necessarily see in real life. It's not like you're going to see Ron Capps in the Truck Series every single week, although who knows, maybe there might be something out of this at the end of it all when we get back to real life racing. But just really cool to see, drivers like Ferucci and Ron Capps try stuff. I've seen Scott McLaughlin try a bunch of stuff as well. He jumped into the Indy cars and won the iRacing IndyCar Challenge at Barber. And then Joey Logano, Will Power jumping into supercars and racing down in Australia in Australian prime time, which was deep in the morning here in the United States.
Yeah, that really has been one of the coolest things about this whole iRacing takeover we've seen the last few weeks is kind of a lot of race fans, almost fantasy situations have been able to take place. We've seen Dale Jr. run Indy cars against the best IndyCar has to offer. It's been really neat to see. And yeah, a lot of credit to guys like Santino Ferucci, who ran really well last week in last week's race and is running well here today. And I've seen Ron Capps in everything from a sprint car to a NASCAR truck. It's been pretty great.
Lights are off of the pace car, though. Trucks will go racing with 10 laps to go. They'll come to lap 91, so we'll drop down into the single digits. Green white checkers pending if we get one when we come back racing next time by. But restart goes. There goes Vargas to the outside. Got a decent run, but Ferucci, I think, already almost to the inside of Hill. Is he going to get there going into 1 and 2? He might just. He is there. There's the 18 truck down to the bottom underneath the 12 to try and get second.
I think he lagged back just a little bit, James, to try and get the run. He can't clear off turn 2, however. Side by side down the back straightaway. Ferucci to the inside. Tyler Hill to the outside. Stewart Friesen's in this mix. Friesen now fighting for third as Ferucci gets clear and slides up in front of Tyler Hill. Off turn 4. Can Hill try the crossover? Hill actually forced his way back to the quarter panel. So Ferucci not quite able to clear. Now he'll try to do that down into turn number 1. And Ferucci, I think, put him in the fence.
A little bit of contact there. I think Hill might have driven down into Ferucci and bounced himself into the wall ultimately. But in either case, it's going to be Santino Ferucci who takes over the second spot. And it will be Ferucci who will try and set chase on Josh Bilicki, who's got the oldest tires, but he's also got all the track position in the world. Meanwhile, Vargas to the top side around Christian Eckes, who's worked his way back out front, and the torn-up truck of Harrison Burton making a charge as they come to 1. Blake McCandless.
Well, and how about that? The nose on that Hunt Brothers Toyota, well bent in, but that hasn't slowed down Harrison Burton a bit as he's now battling with his former teammate in Christian Eckes there on the bottom side, and now Eckes not able to find his way up top. He'll slide another position back, move Eckes all the way back to 7th. Harrison Burton hanging on, and now he's still trying to chase down Ryan Vargas.
It's all Josh Bilicki who still leads this race as the times come by here on the stripe. Ferucci was quicker by a 10th. He's coming, Blake McCandless.
He certainly is. Here comes Harrison Burton down on the bottom side of the racetrack, looking to complete the slide job here at 1. Not able to put the throttle down. Give it to Vargas. He holds 4th. They're still side by side behind him.
Here comes Austin Terrio to the inside of Harrison Burton now. That's the battle for the 5th spot advantage. Terrio, the main native, slides up in front of Burton. Burton back on the attack on the crossover in 3 and 4. He can't get it done.
There's your side-by-side battle at the stripe. Ferucci was quicker again by a 10th. That last time by. He's still charging on Bilicki. It's 0.2 of a second now.
0.2 of a second is what he has over Ferucci there in second. Ferucci starting to march him down just a little bit down the backstretch.
Ferucci trying to close. It's 3 truck lengths. It's 2.5 truck lengths. Ferucci right there in the middle of the racetrack. Now he drifts high. 1 lap truck to the bottom. It's Bilicki by 2 lengths off 4.
Bilicki still with the race lead, but Ferucci charging, and he's dragging Stewart Friesen with him. It was another 10th that he shaved off, but he's almost there in 1. Santino Ferucci charging for the win.
And Ferucci made up some more ground. He'll look about a half a lane lower, looking for the edge on Bilicki. They're still chasing each other down. Ferucci with the draft. He continues to chase down Bilicki.
The NTT IndyCar Series star within a truck length of battling for the race lead. Inside of 5 laps to go. Santino Ferucci tracking a half groove lower. He's there off 4.
Might be the next time by he makes the run, but he's there now. No question about it. Ferucci, who's got 10 lap fresher tires than Josh Bilicki, fighting for the race lead in 1.
And they're fighting for the race lead, but don't forget about Stewart Friesen, the fastest truck on the track that last time by. But here comes Ferucci within half a truck length of the race leader.
3 trucks about to be under a blanket, but it's Santino Ferucci with the look into turn 3. He rides in Bilicki's tire tracks. He's a truck length off. Ferucci trying trying to get there. They're coming to 3 to go.
Didn't quite get the run off the bottom. 3 laps to go when they hit the stripe. I think that's where it's got to be. If Ferucci's going to make this move, you come to the inside off of 4, you come down the front, and you slide up with a slide job in 1.
Well, and if he mistimes it, he'll fall into the clutches of Stewart Friesen. Here comes Ferucci. He may have it here on the exit. Ferucci has the momentum off of 2. He can't get past Bilicki yet.
Ferucci looking now. He makes the dive to the inside. Santino, Ferucci side by side with Josh Bilicki for the race lead. He washes up. They get side by side. Ferucci can't complete the pass, and here comes Friesen.
Friesen now to the inside of Ferucci. Those two go side by side for second. 2 laps to go at Kansas, and Bilicki still hanging on out front.
And Friesen's able to clear it, but here comes 2 wide lap traffic in the form of Todd, Gilliland, and White there on the top side. Bilicki's going to have to go 3 wide off the exit of the corner. Friesen is there!
Friesen to the inside. They make contact, headed for turn 3. Stewart Friesen to the bottom of the racetrack. They'll face the white flag when they get back. Friesen with the run. Friesen with the lead.
Friesen with the lead for the moment, but Bilicki fights back up top. White flag to go in the Richmar Florist 100, and Friesen's going to have one more shot, or maybe Santino Ferucci.
Into 1 and 2 for the final time. Bilicki, Friesen, and Ferucci is how they run. Here comes the run from Stewart Friesen. He may have a nose on the exit of the corner. Stewart Friesen looking for the lead on the final time.
Friesen slots back into line. Will he make the dive into turn 3? Friesen pitches the 52 down to the bottom of the racetrack. Big run. He'll try the slide job. Slides across the nose. Here comes Bilicki off 4.
Bilicki with the run on the inside. He pulled the crossover perfectly. They make contact. There goes Santino Ferucci. Santino Ferucci somehow, some way got the victory as Friesen and Bilicki came together right at the end, and Santino Ferucci comes away with the victory in the Richmar Florist 100. Unbelievable stuff out of 4 that last time by. We'll take a look at the Dragonfire Tools replay, but Ferucci was just sitting right there. We talk about it so much in iRacing. Drivers who sit and put themselves in perfect positions to take advantage of situations just like this, and it was Friesen and Bilicki who came together trying to keep each other from getting the win. Coming out of turn 4, and the 18 machine of Santino Ferucci is the winner of the second race of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series. Eric, Estepp, what did you see, and how about that for a finish?
That was incredible. The last 7 or 8 laps were textbook edge of your seat action. The live chats on YouTube, on Twitch are absolutely blowing up right now. People have no idea what they just saw, but what a classic finish right there. Congrats to Santino Ferucci, man. That was right place, right time. Great battle all around by those top 3.
Brilliant stuff from Santino Ferucci, who, in fairness, Blake McCandless, had an excellent truck all night long and had plenty of speed. It was just about trying to figure it out and find the right place to be at the right time. But you can't argue that Ferucci's not deserving of this.
Oh, you certainly can't, James. As you mentioned, he had a lot of speed in that Sealmaster Toyota. And again, Kansas, this was all about timing things out. We saw him go for the pass in 3 and 4 a little bit earlier. He went for it, missed it, lost second to Stewart Friesen, but kept himself close enough that as these two got side by side and Friesen went to try and slow him down, he was able to do just enough to scoot by and take down the win. And again, very fitting here that after all we've been through tonight, that we were able to see these guys put on a finish like that. Remarkable stuff here.
Unbelievable stuff from Santino Ferucci, who comes away the victor in the Richmar Florist 100. As everybody went crazy across the line, and he burned it down so well. He burned down the engine with it. Nothing left of that Tundra. You can legitimately say he left it all on the track. As we take a look at your full field rundown and tell you where your favorite driver finished. Santino Ferucci comes ahead of Stewart Friesen and Josh Bilicki to win tonight's Richmar Florist 100 at Kansas Speedway. Christian Eckes and Ryan Vargas complete the top 5. Austin Terrio with a nice rebound run to finish in the 6th spot. 7th went to Harrison Burton. Hermie Sadler again with another one of those patented top 10 finishes. Natalie Decker also with the top 10 finishes in the 9th spot, and 10th went to the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed.
Tyler Hill brings it home in 11th spot. 12th goes to Jordan Anderson. Again, to have to give him a shout out for organizing this entire deal. 13th, the last truck on the lead lap was a damaged Matt Mills. 14th, Todd Gilliland, 1 lap down. 15th was Spencer Boyd. 16th, Kaz Gralla. 17th, Jason White. 18th, 8 laps down was Ron Capps. 19th, Josh Rayum. And then Brennan Poole rounds out the top 20.
21st in tonight's race was Tommy Joe Martins. Ryan Truex finished in 22nd. 23rd was Stephen Parsons, and Anthony Alfredo finished in 24th. 25th went to Bailey Curry. Howie DeSavino finished in 26th. 27th went to Angela Bruck. Derek Kraus finished in 28th. 29th was Austin Wayne Self. Ty Majeski came home in 30th. 31st was Chase Briscoe. Tyler Ankrum 32nd. And 33rd went to Brent Moffitt. The final truck in tonight's field of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series, the Rich Mar Florist 100 at Kansas Speedway. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the other side with our interviews of the top 3 finishers, including tonight's winner, Santino Ferucci. You're watching Podium Esports coverage of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series of the Podium Esports Twitch channel and Eric Estepp's Out of the Groove YouTube channel. Welcome back to the post-race show here on Podium Esports Switch channel, and Eric Estepp's Out of the Groove as we wrap up coverage from the Rich Mar Florist 100, the second race of 5 in this IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series, where we now turn our attention to the race winner tonight, Santino Ferucci, who's super excited and super ready to get in here as we catch him a little bit off guard. But Santino, that last lap, the final just madness out of turn 4. What's your thinking there? What's your thought process, especially after Stewart got around you? You almost figured that you were just sort of waiting for a moment like that, but it all came together. What did you see from your perspective, and how did it pan out?
I mean, I'm watching the replay right now. I mean, when I was trying to get around Josh, because Josh is just really quick, and he was holding his own. I had better tires, and obviously I had a couple guys on my crew helping me out, just trying to, because NASCAR racing and truck racing is not really my thing, and I'm just here enjoying it and very glad that this got hosted and I got invited. And I just couldn't get by him on the last laps, and I let Stu got around me, and I let Stu and Josh kind of race, and I just kind of hung back, hoping that, watching them race really hard, hoping that they'd touch each other the right way and slow up enough to where I could just sneak by there. So, and just got lucky, and it happened.
How difficult was it in the middle of the race, especially when you were, for a long while, the first driver with fresh tires sort of back in the middle of the pack, but just with all the yellows that came out, you didn't necessarily get the chance to show it. Was it a huge test of patience to sort of have to wait for your opportunity, or did you have some sense that it might pan out like this, where once we get to the end and everybody else came down for tires, that you would have your shot to run for the win like this?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't really expect to be getting back up front so soon, because I wrecked out a little earlier in the race, and I got lucky and I got to come back and race hard, and I came out, I think I cycled around 14th, and I avoided a wreck going into one. I avoided it completely by accident. I grabbed the downshift paddle and dropped the truck into second gear, and it dead hooked me left, and it shot me out into the apron, which made me avoid the 4 cars in front of me that crashed. And that put me back into the top 5.
In the category of luck, the likes of which we've probably never seen, Santino, this one going to go down in history, and I know in your memory banks for a long time. And it's a little bit of redemption for you, isn't it, after Wednesday night iRacing on FS1, where you finished second, and you finished second. And I know afterwards, as excited as you were for bouncing around between so many different cars and being able to be quick, I could tell after after the second one was over the other night, that it's like, man, I just want to get that last spot. Well, you finally got it tonight.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that we did. It's so nice to win, and to have something like, to win a race like this especially, it feels really good, because all these guys are such good racers. They race Truck Series professionally, and I'm a guest. So to be racing against these guys that do this for a living, I'm very honored, and I know all of them are super really competitive and super good at what they do. So to be able to take home the win is something special.
How much fun has this been for you, Santino? Because we've watched you, as James mentioned during the broadcast, race particularly anything, anywhere, anytime on this sim here of late. Have you just been enjoying the opportunity to be able to dip your toe into so many different pools? Or, what has this been about for you?
To be honest, I'll get in anything if it's got a steering wheel, pedals, and 4 tires, man. I just love driving. And the great thing about iRacing is that you can drive anything you want, and the ability is there, the tracks are there, and I've just been trying to stick my nose into all these different series and just drive, man. I love it. It keeps you busy, especially during these times, and it's been a blast. And plus, since I've started streaming, I've had it's kind of felt good to bring my friends and fans closer to watching and talking and interacting, especially throughout the races. So I've actually really enjoyed the diversity of driving.
And Santino, I think another little cherry on the cap of all of this is, while we're on the subject of crossing over and running different events, if we exclude the IROC events, by my count, the only other driver to jump into a series that is not his normal one, or at least standard one for 2020, and win, was Scott McLaughlin in the IndyCar race at Barber that you were also a part of, and now you come over here in the trucks and do it. So I would say that's pretty elite company to be keeping there. What's it mean to you to be able to come into a completely foreign world and win like this?
Dude, it's tough. It's really tough, and it's hard. There's a line. You have to take it serious, but at the end of the day, you also have a lot of fun with it, because I might not ever get the opportunity to race trucks in real life with these guys, but if I do, they'll understand a little bit of how I race through iRacing, and that it will be a fun time, and that I am there to have fun with them and race them hard and clean. So it also gets you to know a couple of the drivers a little better, like just chatting with a few of the drivers in the grid, especially Jordan and Harrison there for a bit. I don't really know them that well, and having that ability to, eventually I go to a lot of cup races and I like to go to a lot of different races, and we race with Truck Series and IndyCar. It'd be cool to actually, once this is over and we're back racing, to go out and say hi and meet them in person and hang out with them there.
Start planting the seed in some owners' minds here, because I have a feeling there are a few that wouldn't mind giving you a seat. But if we turn to the more immediate future, next week is Michigan, a track that you have experience with in iRacing via the 7275 that took place a few weeks ago. Also, you come into that race second in points now. So are we thinking about a championship here at the end of it all, or what are your expectations for next week?
I'm always championship driven. I always am a firm believer of being there in the end. I think running a clean race up to the end of the race and staying in it is super important. Even in IndyCar, even in that championship where I think we sit sixth, I'm not obviously the quickest iRacer or sim racer in IndyCar. I don't think I'm the quickest driver in the Truck Series. I think that if you do stay clean, don't make mistakes, and focus on grabbing enough checkered flags at the end and, just keeping it in the top 10, in the top 5, you'll be there. And, that's what I intend to do for the next 3 races of this Truck Series. I love Michigan. I actually do wish and I hope I get the chance in real life to race there. So that would be a really cool dream track.
About as good as an audition for a real-life Truck Series ride as you could have. Santino, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. Congratulations on your victory tonight, and we look forward to seeing you in the Irish Hills next Thursday night.
Sounds good. Thank you guys for having me. Have a good night.
Santino Ferucci, P1 this evening in the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series, the Richmar Florist 100 winner. We now turn to the driver who finished 3rd in this race. Jacob Seelman is with Josh Bilicki.
And Josh Bilicki, I thought was in the catbird seat, and then we got to turn 4, and everything broke loose in about the last 300 feet or so. Josh, walk me through what you saw, felt on that last lap, last corner, because it got crazy. And before that, you had done a heck of a job holding off the hounds.
Maybe holding off his thoughts for a moment just to gather himself, potentially, Jacob Seelman. But still, I think from his perspective, when I look at it, and I'll be curious to see what he says when we get to talk to him, as I can't even speak here. But just the ability to hold off everybody on the old tires and really make that strategy work. It's not something that you expect at Kansas, especially when the track's as warm as it is. And I think he's got to be commended for it, because I thought it was a brilliant race from the 33, especially in the second half of the event.
I thought it was as well, James. One of those where you kind of sit back and you look at it, and I don't know what more he could have done, quite frankly. I mean, when you're sitting where you're sitting in turn 4, that's just a product of hard racing coming to the checkered flag.
Hey there. Sorry about that. You guys got me?
There we go. Now we've got Josh.
Now we've got Josh Bilicki. There we go.
Awesome. But yeah, that was a heck of a race. Got wrecked there with about lap 60, so used my only reset there, got tires and raced my way to the front. I knew it was going to be hard racing there between Christian, and then he got wrecked out too. So then it was between obviously myself, Santino, and Stewart. And yeah, I felt I held them off there pretty good until obviously that last lap. It was a lot of fun. In real life, I don't often get to race against some of those guys towards the front, at least. So I knew it was going to be hard racing against Stewart. Unfortunately, there was that lap car down at the bottom of the track coming to the checkered, and I didn't want to go past that white line, so I kind of held it up, and I think Stewart probably expected me to come down a little bit. So yeah, we touched and we wrecked, and yeah, so congratulations to Santino. He's been really impressive on all of his iRacing ventures. He's an IndyCar driver, open wheel driver in real life, but I think that's what makes iRacing so cool, that there's so many different drivers from different disciplines coming together and racing competitively. And I've been doing a lot of iRacing on Indy cars as well, so yeah, hats off to everybody. Hats off to Jordan Anderson and you guys for putting on this race. It was a lot of fun.
Now, I've seen enough of your real life racing to think I know the answer to this, Josh. Is that the first time you have managed to finish 3rd sliding sideways across the line?
Yes, yeah, 100%. That's definitely the first time I've ever finished that high going sideways for sure, ever actually. So, yeah, hopefully we don't do that again. Hopefully next time we can come out for a win. But yeah, we finished 4th last week in Texas and 3rd today, so we're sitting pretty in points.
How much of your truck experience and NASCAR experience can you apply on the sim, and how much works and doesn't work in your experience?
Yeah, so what's cool is actually I made my Truck Series debut just last year. I went Cup racing and Xfinity racing before I ran the truck in real life. So my first truck start was here at Kansas last year around this time, and I spent a lot of time on the sim. And there's a lot that actually relates, whereas, you know, where you run on track, obviously here today everybody was up top, the track was so hot, but just in real life too, you know, we ran the top every time we go to Kansas, it seems like. So just, you know, this track entices a lot of side-by-side racing, and that's what you can use iRacing for, is to feel out what the bottom does and how to make passes and how to approach making the passes as well.
Well, I know obviously none of this is possible for anybody on their own, and I know you've got a lot of partners to give a shout out to and thank. Josh, P3 and Points, who makes it happen?
Yeah, we had Insurance King on the car this weekend on the truck. We also had the Builders Outlet Superstore. Those two were the primary sponsors. We had Fort Worth Screen Printing on the deck lid. They were a primary sponsor of mine last week. And then lastly, we had Whitetail Smokeless as well. So those 4 were on the truck. Couldn't be here racing without them, and also in real life too. You know, we carry a lot of pride in our partners, and we really thank them.
Flying the flag and the number for Rayum Brothers Racing, Josh Galicki, P3 tonight. We'll see you in a week, Josh.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys.
I think we now finally get the chance to take a breath and step back and process what we've seen before we move on to Michigan International Speedway. That's the next stop. And Blake McCandless, I turn to you first. Takeaways from this evening, things that you maybe didn't expect, and things that you think we might see in Michigan 1 week from tonight.
Well, James, I expected the top side to be the place that you wanted to be, and that certainly ended up being the case. We knew we were going to get a lot of side-by-side racing. There was no surprise there, but I'm surprised that you know, we weren't able to run under green as much as I'm sure these drivers would have liked to. It was just, you had to be very aggressive to make passes. And so, you know, those aggressive 3 wide, 4 wide, and even 5 wide moves, it didn't work here at Kansas, but there's one track that 5 wide could potentially work at, and luckily we're visiting that next week in Michigan International Speedway, so that should be fun to see. I think a lot of this stuff, once we widen this racetrack back out at Michigan next week, these guys are going to put on one heck of a show. There's a lot of opportunities there to run a lot of different lanes and whatnot, so I think hopefully this is a learning experience for some people, and you know, we'll just move forward to Kansas, but we were still treated obviously to an incredible run there at the end, and it just seems like that iRacing experience, guys like Santino, guys like Stewart, Friesen, they're able to figure it out, and they should be up front again next week.
And be up front again next week, Jacob Sim. And the points battle going to be really tight, too, going into Michigan. Eckes is your leader with 25, but Ferucci's got 23. Malicki's got 22. Harrison Burton's in the mix with 21. Stewart, Friesen, and Hermie Sadler tied for 5th with 17 points. If you expected that top 5 after 2 races, raise your hand, collect your winnings.
And then put them down, because you're all lying.
I would think so. But as we transition to Michigan, what are your expectations?
As much calamity as we saw here, and I don't mean calamity from a crashing standpoint, but I do mean calamity from a side-by-side. Like Blake said, Michigan's one of the few places where you could probably make 5 wide work and get away with it because of how wide and sweeping the corners are. We know the draft is going to play a major factor, not just because these trucks punch such a big hole in the air, that the draft is always a factor, but when you increase the speed, you increase the distance around, you give them more room to race, you're going to get the suck up, you're going to be able to use that to slingshot around people, and that is going to be the story of next week at Michigan. I think it's going to be a tremendous race, and I think we could probably gear up for just as good of a finish there as we saw here tonight in Kansas.
And Eric Estepp, I turn to you for the final point of the evening, and maybe the biggest one here, that the crossover potential of iRacing between drivers and series and different kinds of cars on full display tonight. No better example of that, I think, since Scott McLaughlin winning it, Barber, than what Santino Ferucci did here tonight, nearly a month later. I think it speaks to iRacing's potential, as you said during the broadcast, but it also speaks to the kind of driver Ferucci is. I don't think we got the chance to see it in the Formula One feeders, but now that he's back here in America, I think by virtue of his performances in IndyCar last year, what he's been able to do in the sim in this period, I don't think anybody can deny that Santino Ferucci really does have an act for getting around a racetrack in a lot of different kinds of cars.
Yeah, like he said during his post-race interview there, if it has 4 wheels and a steering wheel, he's good at driving, and he's going to take on that challenge. And he has definitely been one of the most notable drivers to watch these first 2 weeks of the pickup throwdown. So I think he's going to be one to watch going forward for sure. I don't think he's a fluke. I don't think this is an outlier by any stretch of the imagination. But echoing what you guys said about Michigan next week, I think that one's going to be a lot of fun. Echoing what you said about how wide that track is, could have used maybe a little bit wider, a little bit more racing pavement here in today's race. They'll get their wish next week at Michigan. But tonight was a ton of fun. I want to thank you guys again for having me on as a part of the broadcast. It was a pleasure to watch you guys work. And again, a big thank you to Jordan Anderson and AE Engine, everyone who helped put this series together. I know the fans at home seem to have a lot of fun monitoring all the live chats tonight. And I think everyone's going to be talking about that finish for a while. That was certainly one for the ages.
Waiting to see who's clipped it on Twitch. If it has been clipped already, I figure someone's going to jump in and go ahead and knock that out. Yeah, of course it has. No surprise there, right? So you can head on over to the Podium Esports Twitch channel to check that out. You can also check out Eric's channel on Out of the Groove on YouTube, youtube.com/Eric Estepp, with 2 P's, of course, to see everything that he's up to, because he's a bit of a busy man. Has talked a little bit about this IceBox Pickup Throwdown and about his thoughts on NASCAR's return to competition, which will come on May 17th at Darlington Raceway, middle of the afternoon. It's going to be a very entertaining event indeed as we see real-life NASCAR return to form. But it's time to wrap up our broadcast of tonight's Richmar Florist 100 from Kansas Speedway, the second race in the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series. So for everybody at Jordan Anderson Racing and AM Technologies that have helped put this on, Jordan Anderson, Tim Self, Austin Wayne Self, AE Engine, Josh Mullen Company for their work that they've done, Kyle Barnes running the control tower and running race control, and then for everyone at Podium Esports, Cisco Scaramuza, Gary Sexton, John Theodore, and our booth crew tonight, Blake McCandless, Jacob Seelman, and Eric Estepp, along with our producer, Ryan Bauer. I am James Pike. Thank you so much for watching Podium Esports broadcast of the Richmar Florist 100 at Kansas Speedway. We will see you next week, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Podium Esports Twitch channel and youtube.com/Eric Estepp for race number 3 of the IceBox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series from Michigan International Speedway. Until then, good night.